Across our world, ancient structures and forgotten artifacts still sit in the shadows of deserts, mountains, and deep forests. Places built with precision we can't fully explain, and objects created by people we no longer remember. In this video, we explore 30 discoveries that challenge what we think we know: lost cities carved into cliffs, temples older than recorded history, underwater roads, star-shaped complexes, and artifacts so advanced they feel out of place in their own time. If you love real archaeology with quiet mystery, stay with me. The alien head figurine of Bara 1. In the far north of Kuwait, not far from the dusty horizon of the Arabian Gulf, lies a quiet patch of desert called Bara 1. It looks ordinary, just low mounds, wind-cut ridges, and the pale shimmer of heat over sand. But buried beneath that silence is one of the most puzzling finds in Middle Eastern archaeology: a small clay head, barely the size of a child's fist, with a face that seems not quite human. Its skull is elongated, its eyes narrow and almond-shaped, and its expression calm, distant, unreadable has haunted every archaeologist who's looked into it. The figurine was discovered in 2016 by a joint Kuwaiti-Polish team working at Bara 1, one of the earliest known Neolithic settlements on the Gulf Coast. Radiocarbon dates place the site around 7,000 years old. The people who lived here farmed, fished, and traded along routes that would one day become the arteries of Mesopotamia. They left pottery, tools, hearths, and fragments of their lives. But among all that debris, nothing else looked like this. The figurine was found broken, just the head, its body lost to time. When conservators cleaned the clay, the details emerged slowly. The skull stretched back unnaturally long. The eyes were slanted upward. The mouth was only a faint groove. No other artifact from this period in Arabia or southern Mesopotamia carries these proportions. To some, it resembled the stylized art of distant cultures. To others, it looked like something entirely out of place, as if its sculptor had seen a being that didn't belong to this world. Bahara 1 itself was already unusual. It sits at the crossroads between two very different worlds: the Arabian Peninsula, home to early coastal herders and pearl divers, and southern Mesopotamia, where the first villages were becoming towns. Archaeologists believe Bahara 1 may have been a trading post, linking those two spheres. They found pottery imported from far away, painted jars from Ubaid period Iraq, delicate ceramics that predate the Sumerians by centuries. Whoever lived here had contacts stretching hundreds of kilometers. The discovery of the figurine only deepened the mystery. In Mesopotamia, small clay idols were common: fertility goddesses, animal spirits, or family protectors. But the Bahara 1 head was nothing like them. It lacked the full feminine form typical of mother goddess figures. It was purely a head, carved with care, and deliberately exaggerated. The sculptor had shaped the skull into a long oval, tapering toward the back, then incised two deep diagonal lines for eyes. The result is startlingly modern, almost abstract, as if trying to capture not anatomy but essence. When photographs were released, the figurine became instantly famous online. Some called it proof of ancient alien contact. Others saw in it the echo of cranial elongation, a practice found later in Egypt and the Andes, where human skulls were bound in infancy to produce a high, domed shape associated with nobility. Could this tiny sculpture record an early version of that same idea, a symbol of status, or of beings believed to be closer to the gods? Archaeologists remain cautious. The figurine was made of simple clay, sun-dried rather than kiln-fired. It could have been a toy, a charm, or an idol used in domestic ritual. Yet even with that modest material, its craftsmanship is deliberate. Every mark is intentional. The symmetry of the eyes, the subtle ridge of the nose, the slight forward tilt of the head, all convey personality. It may represent not an alien, but the earliest attempt at portraying the human spirit as something beyond flesh. The surrounding site tells a quiet story. Bahara 1 once held rectangular mud brick houses, each divided into small rooms. Hearths, grinding stones, and fish bones show daily life beside the sea. People here traded obsidian from Anatolia, shells from the Gulf, and bitumen from Mesopotamia. This was not an isolated tribe, but part of a network connecting early civilizations thousands of years before cities rose in Sumer. Amid this trade of goods and ideas, someone molded that figurine, perhaps as an offering, perhaps as memory. To hold it today is to feel a tension between worlds. Its surface is rough with time, its features softened by erosion, yet the design remains unmistakable. When the archaeologists lifted it from the sand, the desert wind was still, the air dry and heavy. They cleaned it gently with brushes, and slowly the eyes appeared, two dark shadows staring through 7 millennia. In that moment, the dig site fell silent. Everyone there sensed the same thing, that they were looking into a face that did not belong to any culture they knew. What was the sculptor trying to say? Was this the image of a deity, a spirit, or an ancestor? Or was it the memory of something seen or imagined on the horizon of consciousness, when myth and life were still the same? In later analysis, microscopic study of the clay revealed traces of fine shell grit, a material often mixed to strengthen ceremonial figurines. That detail suggests purpose. This was not a child's toy or discarded scrap. It was meant to last, and somehow it did. When displayed under museum lights, the figurine seems to change expression with each angle. From one side it looks human, from another, unearthly. That ambiguity might be the very reason it was made, to embody the threshold between the known and the unknown, the human and the divine. Thousands of years ago, the people of Bara 1 looked up at the same stars we see today, unspoiled by city lights. To them, the heavens were alive, each point of light a messenger or a sign. Maybe when the sculptor shaped those slanted eyes, they were imagining the gaze of the sky itself. Whatever its origin, the alien head figurine of Bara 1 reminds us how ancient art can still ask modern questions. Who were we then? What did we see? And why does the image of that narrow-eyed face still feel so familiar, as if it were waiting for us to recognize it? The giant Ice Age hand axe of Kent. In the rolling green hills of southeast England, where the River Medway winds slowly through the county of Kent, the ground beneath the grass tells a story far older than Britain itself. Beneath these fields lies Ice Age earth, layers of gravel, flint, and clay that once formed the floodplains of a world ruled by mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses. And in that ancient soil, archaeologists found something extraordinary. A tool so massive, so deliberate in its creation, that it seemed to come from hands larger than our own. It is known as the giant hand axe of Kent, and it dates back nearly 300,000 years, to a time when early humans walked a landscape colder, harsher, and emptier than anything we can imagine. The discovery was made in 2023, during routine excavations near Maidstone. Archaeologists were surveying a site before construction, expecting to find typical Ice Age flints, the kind used by Homo heidelbergensis, a species that lived long before modern humans. But what they unearthed that day stopped them in their tracks. Lying in the sediment was a flint hand axe over 30 centimeters long, the length of a man's forearm, and twice the size of any normal Paleolithic tool. Its shape was perfect, symmetrical, finely flaked, and clearly made with intention. It wasn't a rough cobble or a broken core. It was a weapon, or an instrument, carved with extraordinary skill. Yet its size made no sense. It was too big to hold comfortably, too heavy to use efficiently. Whoever made it wasn't thinking about practicality. They were thinking about something else entirely. Archaeologists have found more than 800,000 years of human history in Britain, from the first footprints left in Norfolk mud to the earliest stone tools scattered across valleys. But the Kent hand axe stands apart. It belongs to a small rare class of objects known as giant bifaces. Oversized stone tools found across Europe, always in small numbers, always from Ice Age layers. Each one looks like a magnified version of the classic Akorun hand axe, a teardrop-shaped piece of flint, sharpened on both sides, balanced perfectly in form. The hand axe from Kent measures 29.6 centimeters long and weighs over 1.5 kilograms. To create it, the maker would have needed a raw flint nodule of exceptional size and remarkable strength and control to chip it evenly without breaking it. One misstrike and the entire tool would have shattered. That didn't happen. Whoever made this had experience, confidence, and purpose. But what was that purpose? For early humans like Homo heidelbergensis, hand axes were multi-purpose tools, the Swiss army knives of the Paleolithic world. They were used to butcher animals, scrape hides, dig roots, and shape wood. Yet the giant axes don't fit those roles. They're too large for daily use. Some archaeologists think they were ceremonial objects, symbols of status or skill, the prehistoric equivalent of a craftsman showing mastery through perfection. Others believe they had a ritual role, objects made not to be used but to be seen. When you hold an ordinary hand axe, it fits snugly in your palm. When you hold the Kent giant, it fills both hands completely. It demands attention. It feels more like a statement than a tool. Imagine the Ice Age world around it, open plains stretching toward the horizon, herds of ancient horses and bison moving across frost-covered ground. Small bands of early humans, bundled in furs, gather around fires, their breath white in the cold. One of them carries a flint, unlike any other, gleaming under the weak sun, reflecting skill and strength. In a world where survival meant everything, such an object might have been a symbol of power or identity. The flint itself comes from chalk bedrock, shaped by countless centuries of water and frost before it was struck by human hands. The surface shows fine ripples where flakes were removed, in precise sequence, a technique that required not just physical strength, but also mental planning. To make a biface of this scale, the maker had to visualize every flake before striking, controlling the angles with near mathematical precision. Modern experiments in knapping, the art of stone tool making, show how difficult that is. Most large flint nodules fracture unpredictably. Creating a symmetrical biface even half this size takes hours of concentration. One wrong impact can destroy days of work. That the Kent hand axe exists at all means it was made by someone who not only understood the material, but also aimed for perfection beyond utility. It's tempting to think of prehistoric people as primitive, but objects like this challenge that view. This was not brute work, it was art, geometry made from stone. When the excavation team found it, the air was still cool, the ground damp from spring rain. They noticed the flint's edge glinting through the soil. As they brushed it free, its size became clear. Photos from that moment show the archaeologists kneeling in silence, their gloved hands hovering just above the artifact. Even for professionals who spend their lives unearthing the past, this was something rare, a moment when time feels like it collapses, and you're face to face with a mind from another world. Analysis later confirmed its age. The sediments around it dated to the Middle Pleistocene, roughly 300,000 years ago, the same period as other large bifaces found in the Thames and Somme valleys. Britain at that time was not an island, but part of a vast steppe stretching into Europe. It was cold, raw, and unstable, a land between ice and green. The people who made tools here lived in small groups, hunting large animals and moving with the seasons. They left behind almost nothing. No houses, no art, no written word, only stone, and yet that stone speaks volumes. The Kent hand axe suggests pride, a maker who wanted to push limits, to create something extraordinary in a world of bare necessity. It's possible that it served a symbolic purpose, perhaps exchanged between groups, or left as an offering near water. Many giant axes have been found close to ancient river channels, as if deliberately placed rather than lost. In that sense, they could represent an early form of human ritual, objects made not for survival, but for meaning. Archaeologists often say that the moment humans began to create things not just out of need, but out of imagination, was the moment humanity truly began. Maybe that spark was already there, flickering in the cold plains of Ice Age Kent. When viewed today under museum light, the surface of the hand axe glows faintly, a dull gray with hints of blue, the edges still sharp after 300 millennia. You can see every strike, every curve. It's the signature of a person who lived before history, yet thought and created as we do, with vision, and that may be the most haunting part of all. The maker of this enormous tool is gone without a name. Their people vanished, their language lost, but the flint remains. A message in stone, silent but unmissable, saying simply, "We were here. We understood." The lead curse tablet of Mount Ebal, West Bank. High above the dusty hills of the West Bank, where the wind moves through olive trees and the stone terraces step down toward the valley of Shechem, there stands an ancient mountain that carries an older name, Mount Ebal. In the Hebrew Bible, Mount Ebal is described as the mountain of the curse. It is where Joshua, the successor of Moses, gathered the Israelites after crossing into Canaan. Half the tribes stood on nearby Mount Gerizim to bless, and half on Ebal to curse, sealing a covenant with their God. For centuries, the story was myth, a sacred tale without proof. But in 2019, an object emerged from the soil of Mount Ebal that may, for the first time, link text and archaeology. A tiny folded sheet of lead, so small it could rest on a fingertip, yet heavy with controversy. It is called the Mount Ebal Curse Tablet. The artifact was found not through excavation, but through wet sifting, a method where dirt from older digs is re-examined with water to catch smaller finds that were once missed. The soil came from a site first excavated in the 1980s by Israeli archaeologist Adam Zertal, who believed he had found an early altar on the mountain, possibly the one mentioned in the Book of Joshua. For decades, the idea was debated. Zertal's stone structure, a rectangular platform surrounded by ramp-like walls, was dismissed by some scholars as just another Bronze Age watchtower. But the discovery of this laid tablet has brought that site back into the center of one of the fiercest debates in biblical archaeology. The tablet is small, only 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters, folded tightly, sealed shut. Its surface is corroded, its edges crushed by time. At first it looked like an unremarkable scrap of ancient metal, but when it was scanned using high-resolution tomographic imaging, the researchers saw faint lines inside, markings, curves, letters. They realized the inscription lay hidden within, written before the lead was folded closed, and those letters, if the interpretation is correct, carry the earliest known form of ancient Hebrew writing, dating to around 3,200 years ago, near the end of the Late Bronze Age. The text, according to the team led by archaeologist Scott Stripling, is simple yet powerful. It reads, "Cursed, cursed, cursed, cursed by the God Yahweh, you will die cursed." If authentic, it would represent the oldest known mention of the divine name ever found in Israel, predating the Dead Sea Scrolls by over 1,000 years. But the claim, as expected, has divided the academic world. Many archaeologists urge caution. The artifact was not found in situ, not unearthed directly by trowel from a sealed layer. but recovered from soil that had already been disturbed decades earlier. Without clear stratigraphic context, its precise age is uncertain. Others argue that the letter shapes, early proto-alphabetic symbols, are open to interpretation. The marks could be natural scratches, or they could represent another dialect entirely. Still, even skeptics admit the object is remarkable. Lead tablets like this were used throughout the ancient Near East and Mediterranean for a single purpose: to bind curses. They appear in Greek, Roman, and Canaanite contexts, often inscribed with words of malediction, folded shut, and buried in graves, wells, or sanctuaries. The intent was always the same: to send a message into the unseen, calling for justice or vengeance. If the Mount Ebal tablet truly belongs to that tradition, it would push the practice back nearly a millennium earlier than previously known, to a time when writing itself was still a rare and sacred act. But the deeper question remains: who wrote it, and why here? Mount Ebal overlooks the ancient city of Shechem, one of the oldest continuously inhabited sites in the Levant. To its south lies Mount Gerizim, the mountain of blessing. Between them runs a natural amphitheater of stone. The geography is strikingly close to the description in the book of Joshua, where the Israelites renewed their covenant after entering Canaan. If Zertal's structure on Ebal really was an altar, and if this tablet truly contains the name Yahweh, then this small piece of metal may be the earliest physical trace of the Israelite identity, the moment when an oral faith first touched stone and metal. When the scans were first unveiled, they showed faint incisions that formed recognizable characters. The letters are angular, primitive, not yet standardized Hebrew, but the Proto-Canaanite script from which Hebrew later evolved. In one line, the divine name appears compressed, as if hidden, a secret word folded in lead, meant for no living eyes. The ritual power of lead was well known in the ancient world. It was a metal of finality, heavy, unyielding, and associated with the underworld. To write a curse on lead was to bind it permanently. Once folded, it could not be read again. That act itself was symbolic. The message was sealed not for men, but for gods. The Mount Ebal tablet may therefore be more than a text. It is a prayer, or perhaps a warning, left at the threshold between heaven and earth. When Stripling's team announced their findings in 2022, headlines spread across the world. Some called it the earliest Hebrew inscription ever discovered. Others called it wishful archaeology. Yet beyond the debate, the artifact itself remains silent, unchanged by belief or skepticism. It sits under controlled light in a conservation lab, a dull, folded square of metal that might hold one of history's oldest written names for God. What makes it so haunting is not the controversy, but the image it evokes. A hand, 3,000 years ago, etching a message onto soft lead, then folding it tight, sealing a curse. Perhaps it was a priest, perhaps a supplicant, desperate for divine protection or vengeance. We will never know, but through that act, something human survives, the same need to be heard, to ask for justice, to speak into the silence of eternity. And whether or not the inscription truly names Yahweh, the meaning endures. The curse tablet of Mount Ebal is a fragment of a world on the edge of history, the moment when faith and fear found a voice in metal, and writing became a bridge between the seen and the unseen. The Heslington Brain. In the rolling green fields of northern England, just outside the city of York, archaeologists unearthed something that should have been impossible. They were excavating an Iron Age settlement, clearing ground for a new university building. The soil was damp, rich with clay, the kind that preserves wood, seeds, and bones. But what they found one cold morning in 2008 stopped the entire dig. A human skull had been buried in a pit, severed cleanly from its body. Inside that skull, nestled where the brain should have long since decayed to dust, was something soft, golden, and unmistakable. It was a human brain, still intact, preserved for 2,600 years. No other part of the body survived, but the folds of that ancient organ remained, shrunk and hardened, yet instantly recognizable. Archaeologists named it the Heslington Brain, after the small village nearby, and in that moment they realized they had uncovered one of the most extraordinary examples of natural preservation ever found. Normally, the brain is the first organ to disappear after death. Within days, its delicate tissues collapse, liquefy, and vanish. For a brain to survive even a year, let alone 2.5 millennia, requires conditions so rare that scientists could barely believe what they were seeing. The skull was found face down in a shallow pit, about a meter below the surface. There were no grave goods, no coffin, no sign of a burial ritual. The neck vertebrae showed clean-cut marks, suggesting decapitation. Whoever this person was, they died violently, beheaded, their head tossed or placed deliberately into the earth. The rest of the body was missing. When the skull was lifted and examined in the lab, the discovery became even stranger. Inside, the brain was not fossilized or mineralized. It was organic, soft tissue that had somehow resisted the natural processes of decay. It had shrunken to about 1/5 its original size, but retained the grooves and ridges of the cortex. Under a microscope, the structure of neurons and membranes could still be seen. Chemical analysis later revealed why. The soil of Heslington is rich in fine clay and low in oxygen. When the head was buried, water quickly filled the pit and cut off airflow. That anaerobic environment prevented bacteria from consuming the brain. Over time, the proteins inside it cross-linked, forming a dense, rubbery mass that resisted decomposition, a process unlike anything ever seen before. But that explanation only deepens the mystery. Why was the head there in the first place? During the Iron Age, decapitation was sometimes part of ritual sacrifice or warfare. Across Britain, archaeologists have found skulls deposited in rivers and bogs, offerings, perhaps, to the gods of the underworld. The Heslington find fits that pattern, but the condition of the brain and the way it was preserved makes it unique. CT scans and isotopic tests revealed that the person was a man in his 30s, healthy at the time of death. His neck showed signs of hanging or a swift blow before decapitation. Afterward, his head was buried alone, face down, quickly sealed by wet soil. Within weeks, the lack of oxygen turned the pit into a natural time capsule. Forensic studies showed no deliberate embalming, no chemicals or resins. The preservation was entirely natural, a coincidence of environment and chemistry so rare that it has never been fully replicated. When scientists from the University of Bradford examined the tissue under electron microscopes, they found something even more astonishing. Neural structures still visible. The tiny branching shapes of neurons and glial cells were preserved as if frozen in time. The brain had literally held its shape across 26 centuries. To touch it, researchers said, was like touching hardened leather, pliable but firm. The color was golden brown, with darker patches where oxidation had set in. The texture was unlike any other ancient organ ever studied. What makes the Heslington brain so haunting is not just its survival, but what it represents, a fragment of thought, memory, and life preserved against all odds. The person it belonged to lived in a world without writing, without cities, in a land of wooden roundhouses and open moors. They hunted, worked the soil, and lived within sight of the changing seasons. And yet, here in the modern world, their brain still rests, silent but tangible. The archaeologists who first held it described a kind of reverence. It wasn't just a scientific find, it was an encounter with a person, an individual whose final thoughts, fears, and sensations ended suddenly, but left a trace that should not exist. Over the following years, the brain was studied intensively. Biochemical tests found proteins and lipids similar to those in modern tissue. Some researchers believe the same chemical process that preserved bog bodies in northern Europe may have acted here, though no other known site in Britain has produced a result quite like it. Today, the Heslington brain remains one of the oldest preserved human brains ever discovered, older than the Roman Empire, older than written history in Britain. It's kept in a secure lab at the University of York, monitored for temperature and humidity, its surface still faintly glistening under the light. Visitors often describe the same reaction, awe, mixed with discomfort. To see the physical seat of thought, the very organ that once dreamed, remembered, and feared, preserved like a relic, is to realize how fragile we truly are. The scientists studying it speak carefully. They avoid words like miracle. They call it a perfect accident, the meeting of biology, environment, and chance. But beneath that explanation lies something deeper, a quiet awareness that this object, more than any artifact or weapon, brings us face to face with the human past at its most personal, not as bones or stone tools, but as mind-made matter. The Canaanite ivory comb. In the heart of southern Israel, where the hills of Lachish rise gently from the dry plains, archaeologists uncovered an object so ordinary, so human, that it nearly went unnoticed. It wasn't gold, or stone, or a statue of a god. It was a comb, carved from ivory, delicate, broken in half. But on its worn surface, etched by a steady hand nearly 3,700 years ago, was something far more extraordinary, the oldest known alphabetic sentence in the world. The inscription reads, "May this tusk root out the lice of the hair and the beard." It's short, almost humorous, but behind those few words lies the beginning of something that changed civilization forever, the invention of writing that anyone could learn. The comb was discovered in 2016 at Tel Lachish, one of the most important Canaanite cities of the Bronze Age. For years, the artifact lay unnoticed in storage, covered in dust and debris, its teeth long gone. Then, in 2022, a team of researchers re-examined it with advanced lighting and noticed faint, shallow scratches along the handle. When they enhanced the images, the marks formed recognizable shapes. Letters, not pictographs, not cuneiform wedges, but letters of an alphabet, small, abstract symbols representing sounds. It was the script that would one day become Phoenician, then Greek, then Latin, and eventually the alphabet you're reading now. This little comb, carved from imported elephant ivory, bridges the world of image-based writing and the birth of literacy itself. Archaeologist Daniel Vainstube, who led the study, could hardly believe it when he deciphered the words. The letters were Proto-Canaanite, the earliest form of alphabetic writing, used around 1700 BCE. Before this, writing belonged to scribes and priests, trained for years to master the complex scripts of Egypt and Mesopotamia. But in Canaan, someone began simplifying, breaking words into sounds, assigning each sound a symbol. It was the first time writing could belong to everyone. And here, on something as simple as a lice comb, that innovation took a very human form. The object itself is small, just 3.5 centimeters long, with teeth on both sides, fine teeth for hair, coarse ones for beards. Under a microscope, scientists even found traces of head lice still clinging to its surface, ancient parasites frozen in time. Whoever owned this comb lived a real life, sweating, scratching, and caring for themselves just like we do. The inscription, though humble, speaks volumes. It's both a wish and a joke, a charm to drive away pests. It reflects the ordinary struggles of Bronze Age life, where hygiene, superstition, and language met in a single artifact. The writer may have believed that carving words on the object could give it power, that the magic of the written word could make the comb more effective, but there's another layer to its meaning. To carve those letters, someone had to know the alphabet. Not a priest, not a royal scribe, just an artisan or local literate person. That means that by 1700 BCE, the alphabet wasn't just invented, it was already spreading. The earliest Canaanite inscriptions were not used to glorify kings or gods, but to record simple human concerns. It began not in temples, but in homes. And that's what makes this find so powerful. The world's first alphabetic sentence wasn't about conquest or religion, it was about lice. In that it carries a quiet truth, that civilization grows not only from monuments and wars, but from the smallest acts of daily life. The urge to speak, to write, to name, and to wish. The ivory came from Africa, traded north through Egypt and across the Levant, proof that Lachish was already part of a vast network of commerce. The comb's maker likely worked in a workshop attached to the palace, shaping the imported material into fine objects for the elite. Ivory was luxury, soft enough to carve but precious to own. Whoever commissioned this piece was wealthy, but the inscription's tone suggests intimacy, a personal charm, rather than an official inscription. In the Bronze Age, lice were a constant nuisance. There was no soap, no combs as fine as this one, no easy relief. People associated pests with bad luck, impurity, and sometimes divine displeasure. Writing a charm onto the comb itself was a way of blending prayer and practicality, invoking words as protection. As archaeologists read the sentence for the first time, they realized its significance went far beyond what it said. These few letters were the earliest known evidence of the alphabet as a working system, not as symbols of religion or power, but as tools of everyday life. The sound system that began here, LMN and BT, the roots of our ABC, would travel across the Mediterranean, shaping Greek, Latin, and eventually every Western language. Yet it began, humbly, with a man or woman carving a wish to be free of lice. When the artifact was displayed in Israel, visitors often smiled at the translation. It felt familiar, human in a way most ancient inscriptions are not. There's no talk of gods, kings, or war, just a plea that could come from anyone, a wish for comfort. But that simple wish carries something greater. It's the sound of writing itself being born, not in the halls of empire, but in the everyday life of ordinary people. Every word we speak today, every note, every message, every book descends from those first carved letters, and they survive not on a royal stelo or in a temple, but on a comb meant to fight lice. The irony is poetic, but the message is profound. Civilization's greatest tool began in the hands of someone just trying to stop an itch. In that sense, the Canaanite ivory comb is more than an artifact. It's the first recorded glimpse of the human voice made permanent, the moment when sound became symbol and language became memory. The 7,000-year-old pyramid of the Judean desert. As archaeologists continued working along the terraces of the Judean pyramid, the dating question became their greatest challenge. At first glance, everything suggested a Hellenistic origin: coins, pottery, fragments of imported amphorae. These were objects from the Ptolemaic period, roughly 2,200 years old. But beneath those layers, at the very base of the structure, the story changed. The lowest courses of stone, buried deep beneath wind-blown sediment, showed weathering patterns inconsistent with the upper layers. Some of these blocks were eroded in a way that suggested they had stood exposed thousands of years earlier. When the team sampled sediment trapped between stones at the lowest level, it returned dates around 5000 BCE, nearly 7,000 years ago, long before kings, fortresses, or nations rose in this desert. That raised an extraordinary possibility. The pyramid may have been rebuilt several times across millennia, not as a single monument frozen in time, but as a platform that carried different meanings for different cultures. Neolithic pastoralists, Bronze Age travelers, Iron Age kingdoms, and finally the Hellenistic states that ruled the region in the centuries before Rome. To understand how such a structure was possible so early, we need to look at the earliest builders of the southern Levant. 7,000 years ago, the desert was different, greener, cooler, crisscrossed by seasonal streams. Small communities herded goats and sheep, moved between oases, and watched the stars with a seriousness we often forget. For them, the sky was a calendar, a storybook, a map. A stepped monument built on a ridge overlooking the Rift Valley may not have been unusual. It may have been a meeting place, a ritual platform, or a territorial marker for groups who lived mostly without permanent architecture. The construction itself is revealing. The lowest stones are larger and rougher, shaped with hammerstones, not chisels. Their fit is tight but not perfect, the edges worn by centuries of exposure. Above them, Bronze Age layers show more refined masonry, rectangular blocks, smoother faces, and joints aligned carefully. The topmost courses, the Hellenistic additions, show sharp chisel marks, uniform blocks, and evidence of lime plaster. 3 periods, 3 architectural languages, 1 pyramid. By the time the Ptolemaic administrators rebuilt or reused this monument, they may not have even known who made the first version. They simply recognized its strategic value, the vantage point, the visibility, the power of height. A place like this naturally became a station for watching trade routes, collecting taxes, or securing the desert frontier. But the structure's oldest purpose may have been spiritual. Across the ancient world, high places were sacred. In the Levant, long before temples were built, people worshipped on mountaintops, hills, and ridges. The Judean desert is filled with cairns, stone circles, and shrines from the 5th and 4th millennia BCE. The newly discovered pyramid fits that pattern, an elevated platform, aligned toward sunrise, capable of supporting gatherings, ceremonies, or seasonal rites. Some archaeologists propose that the terraces were meant to stage processions, moving upward, step by step, in ritual ascent. Others believe the pyramid was a memorial marker, perhaps covering a burial or a sacred deposit. But so far, no bones or chambers have been found inside. If the structure ever held a tomb, it may have been robbed or destroyed in one of its many rebuilding phases. Still, several clues hint at ceremonial use. The alignment of the lowest tier corresponds with the sun's position during the equinox. The upper terrace faces a peak associated with ancient tribal boundaries of Judah and Edom, and fragments of burned animal bones found nearby suggest sacrificial meals or offerings, practices common in both Neolithic and Bronze Age ritual. Standing on the top terrace today, the landscape feels unchanged. The wind is dry, carrying dust from wadis below. The Dead Sea shimmers in the distance, its surface reflecting harsh light. For a moment, it's easy to imagine figures moving along the ridge, shepherds, pilgrims, travelers, seeing the pyramid from miles away, using it as a landmark, long before maps or borders existed. The Judean desert has always been a place of extremes, of prophets, rebels, monks, and nomads. Machines break down here, batteries fail, but stone endures. That may be why this pyramid survived, while countless settlements vanished into dust. What puzzles archaeologists most is the intentionality of the structure. Even if early builders lacked metal tools, they arranged stones in a clear pattern. The terraces rise with deliberate geometry. The monument isn't a random pile of rocks. It is architecture, planned and executed by a community with vision. And yet there is almost no evidence of long-term habitation nearby. No city, no village, no temple complex. This was not a place where people lived. It was a place they visited, a destination, not a home. That is why some scholars think the pyramid served as a ritual waypoint for seasonal migrations, a permanent structure marking the passage of time, guiding groups who moved between highlands and desert springs. Others believe it was a kind of territorial signature, a monument announcing presence in a landscape without boundaries. If the oldest layers truly date to the 5th millennium BCE, the pyramid predates many of the region's known monuments, including the earliest proto-urban sites. That would make it one of the oldest stepped structures in the Near East. Contemporary with the earliest massive stone constructions in the Arabian Peninsula. The idea is controversial, but the evidence is growing. Throughout the excavation, researchers uncovered tools from multiple ages: flint blades from the Chalcolithic period, bronze arrowheads from the Late Bronze Age, iron artifacts from the 8th century BCE. These represent waves of reuse, cultures returning to the same stone platform, generation after generation, without knowing exactly why it was first built. There are places in the world where memory outlives history. The Judean pyramid may be one of them. And as archaeologists sift through deeper layers, they suspect the site may hold another secret, hints of construction beneath even the oldest visible stones. Ground-penetrating radar has shown anomalies below the base, suggesting earlier activity buried by time. Whether these are natural formations or human-made features remains to be seen. But if deeper excavation reveals even older construction, the story of the desert pyramid may expand far beyond anything imagined today. The Roman mosaic of Rastan, Syria. When I first looked at the discovery in Rastan, I was struck by how unexpected it was. Rastan is a town in central Syria that in recent years became known for destruction and conflict. Buildings were damaged, streets were quiet, and many areas were difficult to access. No one expected that under one of these damaged structures, a major archaeological find was waiting. But in 2022, while workers were clearing debris, they noticed a small patch of colored stone tiles. When they removed more soil, they realized they were looking at part of a Roman mosaic. As the excavation expanded, more of the floor came into view. The colors were still bright after 16 centuries. Reds, greens, blues, and yellows appeared as the dust was brushed away. Soon, detailed human figures emerged. It was clear that this was not a simple decoration. This was a large and sophisticated mosaic, created sometime in the 4th or 5th century CE during the late Roman period. What made it especially important was the subject matter. It showed scenes from the Trojan War, one of the most famous stories of ancient literature. Scenes included warriors fighting, horses charging, ships moving across the sea, and even the arrival of the warrior women, known as the Amazons. I examined the mosaic closely. Each figure was labeled with a Greek name. I could identify characters such as Achilles, Hector, and Odysseus. The presence of these names told me that the artists and the person who commissioned the mosaic were familiar with classical stories and wanted to present them clearly. The style of the mosaic reminded me of works found in major Roman cities of the East, such as Antioch. It suggested that highly trained mosaicists had worked on this project, using skills passed down through generations. The quality of the craftsmanship was impressive. The tiles were very small and arranged to show fine details. The faces of the figures had expressions. Muscles were shaded with different colors. The folds of clothing were shown with careful lines. Even the textures of animal fur and feathers were represented accurately. This was not the work of an ordinary craftsman. This was a professional workshop, possibly one connected to a major artistic center. As I continued studying the mosaic, I thought about the context. This artwork was found under a modern building that had been heavily damaged during conflict. The upper floors collapsed, but the ancient floor below survived almost untouched. This reminded me how archaeology often depends on chance. In this case, destruction above ended up protecting something valuable below. I asked the local archaeologists about the location. They believed the mosaic was part of a large public building or an elite residence. It might have been a meeting hall, a bathhouse, or a reception room. The size and complexity of the artwork suggest that the building had an important social role. People who entered this room 16 centuries ago would have walked across these images, perhaps discussing the stories they represented or admiring the artistic skill. The Trojan War scenes were not chosen randomly. In the late Roman world, the Trojan War was considered part of cultural identity. Educated people knew the story. Roman families believed they descended from the Trojans through Aeneas, who was said to have escaped the burning city and eventually become the ancestor of Rome. By displaying these scenes, the owner of the building in Rastan was connecting himself to that tradition. It was a way of showing culture, education, and status. The more I looked at the mosaic, the more I realized how carefully the scenes were arranged. The panels were placed in a sequence that allowed viewers to follow the story. The colors created a sense of movement, and the borders framed each scene clearly. The artists had planned this layout before placing a single tile. It was the result of deliberate design. We also found signs that the building had been reused in later centuries. Some layers above the mosaic showed occupation from the Byzantine and early Islamic periods. This suggests that people continued to live or work in the building after the mosaic was installed. Over time, debris accumulated, and eventually the floor was buried. When modern construction began, no one realized that an important ancient artwork lay directly beneath. One thing that stood out to me was how the mosaic had survived recent conflict. The region around Rastan had seen heavy fighting. Many archaeological sites in Syria have been damaged or looted, but this mosaic remained intact because it was underground. It was protected by the soil and the collapsed building above it. When I saw it, I felt a mix of surprise and relief. It was a reminder that not all heritage is lost, even in difficult times. I spent time studying each panel in detail. In one scene, Troilus rides a horse at full speed. Achilles chases him with a spear. The way the tiles are arranged gives the scene a sense of urgency. In another panel, Greek ships appear with curved sails and patterned hulls. The artists used dark blue tiles for the sea and lighter shades for the foam. In the Amazon panel, the women wear decorated armor and helmets. Their horses are shown with lifted hooves, as if in motion. These scenes tell us a lot about the values of late Roman society. They valued stories of heroism and struggle. They admired classical myths. They enjoyed art that showed action and movement. The mosaic also shows the high level of education in this region. In late antiquity, Syria was one of the intellectual centers of the Roman Empire. People in cities like Antioch, Apamea, and Emesa read Greek texts and studied philosophy. The Raston mosaic fits into this cultural background. While exploring the mosaic, I spoke with workers who had been part of the excavation. Some said they had lived in Raston for years without knowing that such history lay beneath their feet. For them, the mosaic was not just an archaeological find, but a sign that their town had a long and meaningful past. It brought a sense of pride. The mosaic also raised questions about future preservation. For now, it remains on site, protected by temporary coverings. Removing a mosaic of this size is difficult and risky. Conservators need to stabilize each tile before lifting it, but leaving it in place is also a challenge, especially in an area that still faces economic and social pressure. Decisions about its future will require careful planning. I also considered what the mosaic tells us about the local economy in the 4th century. A mosaic of this scale would have required money, materials, and skilled labor. The patron was likely someone with significant resources. This suggests that Raston was not an isolated town, but part of a broader network of wealthy settlements connected by trade routes. The presence of Greek inscriptions suggests strong cultural ties to the Greek-speaking Eastern Empire. Another important point is how the mosaic survived environmental factors. Mosaics often break apart because moisture damages the mortar, or roots grow underneath. In Raston, the soil composition and the collapsed building created a sealed environment. The colors remained vibrant, and the structure stayed intact. This gives archaeologists a chance to study the original techniques used by the mosaicists. As I analyzed the artwork further, I could see that the mosaicists used shading to create three-dimensional effects. They placed darker tiles along the edges of muscles and armor to suggest depth. They arranged lighter tiles in curved lines to show reflections on metal surfaces. Even the background landscapes were created with a sense of naturalism. The more time I spent with the mosaic, the more I understood the skill level of the workshop responsible for it. Creating a mosaic of this size involved planning, drawing outlines, preparing the floor, mixing mortar, and placing thousands of tiles by hand. It required patience and precision. I also thought about the people who originally walked on this floor. They may have gathered here for meetings, baths, or celebrations. They saw these images in their daily lives. For them, the mosaic was a living part of their environment, not an archaeological artifact. Today we see it through the lens of history, but for them it was decorative, cultural, and social. The mosaic's rediscovery in a modern war zone gives the story even more weight. It shows how layers of history coexist in places where life has continued for millennia. In Raston, ancient art and modern conflict occupied the same space, separated by only a few meters of soil. By the time I finished my examination, I realized that this mosaic is one of the most important finds in the region in recent years. It offers insight into art, culture, education, and society in late Roman Syria. It survived destruction by chance. It reminds us of the rich cultural heritage that still exists beneath the ground, even in places marked by recent tragedy. As I left the site, I thought about how important it is to continue studying and preserving discoveries like this. They connect us to the past in a direct way. They show us how people lived, what they valued, and what stories they told. The mosaic of Raston is a clear example of that. It is more than decoration. It is a reflection of an entire world. The Egyptian lost golden city of Luxor. In 2021, an archaeological team working on the west bank of Luxor uncovered one of the most complete ancient settlements ever found in Egypt. The discovery took place in an area already famous for temples and royal tombs, yet beneath the sand lay something unexpected, a fully preserved city dating back about 3,400 years to the reign of Amenhotep III. What made this discovery remarkable was not its age alone, but its condition. Walls stood high, streets were intact, rooms still held the same objects used thousands of years ago. It was as if the people who lived here had stepped away only days before. The city sits between the Valley of the Kings and Amenhotep III's massive mortuary temple. For decades, archaeologists believed this land had already revealed all of its secrets, but the sand kept the city hidden, sealing it away until modern excavation uncovered its streets, houses, workshops, and courtyards. Clay seals bearing the phrase, "The Rise of Atine," identified the settlement's ancient name. These discoveries link the city to the late years of Amenhotep III and possibly the early years of Akhenaten, before the dramatic religious shift that took place later. The city appears to have supported royal building projects and everyday life around Thebes. The layout is organized and practical. Streets run in straight lines. Doorways lead into multi-room houses. Some rooms contain pottery, storage jars, and tools left exactly where they had been used. The preservation offers a rare chance to see how people lived, how they cooked, stored food, made pottery, and carried out daily routines. One sector shows evidence of large-scale food production. Ovens, grinding stones, and ash deposits indicate a bakery that produced bread for a large population, possibly workers attached to royal projects. Nearby, a workshop filled with molds for creating amulets suggests organized craft production. These molds match styles found across the 18th dynasty, showing that specialized artisans worked here. Other rooms contained jars filled with pigments used for pottery decoration. Several tools for metal shaping and fragments of slag show that metalworking also took place in the city. The combination of these workshops indicates a settlement with multiple industries supporting laborers, craftsmen, administrators, and officials. Household objects help complete the picture. Pottery vessels of many shapes were found throughout the city. Some still held food remains. Animal bones on floors show that residents consumed cattle, goats, sheep, and fish. Baskets, rope fragments, and leather pieces survived due to the dry environment. Tools made of wood, bone, and bronze reveal the wide range of activities carried out in these homes. Some houses were larger, with more rooms and higher quality pottery. These buildings likely belonged to supervisors or officials. Smaller, simpler houses may have belonged to workers. These differences show social levels within the city, even though everyone lived close together. The city's sudden abandonment remains a central question. Many items were left in place. Tools on floors, pottery filled with unfinished contents, and food preparation equipment mid-use. There is no sign of fire, conflict, or natural disaster. Instead, it appears the settlement was vacated quickly. Scholars believe this may be connected to Akhenaten's decision to move the royal capital to Amarna. When that happened, many workers and officials likely relocated, leaving behind heavy or everyday items. Human remains offer glimpses of the city at its final stage. One skeleton was found lying stretched out in an open area. Another was discovered inside a building. These individuals provide information about health, diet, age, and possibly cause of death. Seal impressions found across the city confirm its administrative role. These stamps were used to secure jars, storage rooms, and documents. Their presence shows a controlled system of supply and resource management, consistent with Egypt's state-run economy during the New Kingdom. The city's large mud brick buildings and storage rooms suggest the management of food, pottery, clothing, and raw materials. Some structures have thick walls and restricted access, indicating important administrative functions. Large jars found in these areas once held grain, dried meat, beer, and oils. The location of the city near the mortuary temple of Amenhotep III suggests it supported activities related to temple rituals, offerings, and construction. Workers living here likely created goods needed for temple ceremonies, statue building, and funerary preparations. The presence of molds, pigments, rope, and metal scraps supports this interpretation. The preservation of organic materials gives researchers rare information. Baskets show weaving techniques. Rope fragments show materials used for binding and construction. Botanical remains, including seeds and plant fibers, reveal what crops were grown and consumed. The site also provides a view into religious life. Figurines and amulets of deities were found in several homes, showing household worship alongside official temple practices. These small objects reflect personal beliefs and daily rituals performed by families. Although parts of the city were briefly reused in later centuries, most of the settlement remained undisturbed. This allowed the layout to stay intact. Straight streets, doorways, and courtyards remain clear. Workshops still show their original organization. This clear preservation helps archaeologists understand how ancient Egyptian cities were structured. Temples and tombs dominate the archaeological landscape, but cities like this show how people actually lived and worked. The Lost Golden City allows researchers to reconstruct daily routines with unusual accuracy. Scientific analysis adds to the understanding. Chemical residue in pottery shows what was stored or cooked. Soil samples provide information about crops and fuel. Microscopic study of grinding stones shows types of grain processed. These details build a complete picture of life during the New Kingdom. The discovery also shows how much of Egypt's history remains hidden. Even in an area that has been studied for more than a century, a major settlement lay just beneath the surface. This city remained protected by the desert, untouched by modern development or erosion. The site also demonstrates the scale of Amenhotep III's building projects. His reign produced massive temples, statues, and monuments. A city like this would have housed the skilled workers responsible for those achievements. The presence of molds, pigments, rope makings, and administrative seals supports the idea of a royal support settlement. Archaeologists continue to excavate and study the site. Conservation efforts aim to preserve the mud brick walls, fragile objects, and organic materials. Pottery, tools, and remains are cataloged and analyzed to determine their roles in daily activities. The settlement provides rare insights into ancient Egyptian urban life. It shows how people cooked, stored food, produced goods, organized workshops, and managed resources. The objects left behind reflect tasks performed in the final days before the city was abandoned. The discovery stands out not only for its preservation, but also for its completeness. It offers a detailed look at a New Kingdom community from the ground level, not from the perspective of pharaohs or temples, but from the homes and workshops of ordinary people. The lost Golden City has become one of the most important archaeological finds in recent Egyptian history. It reveals how much more remains hidden beneath the desert sand. It shows that even in well-studied areas, entire cities still wait to be uncovered. Today, the site continues to provide new information about craft production, administration, and daily life during Egypt's Golden Age. Each structure, tool, and artifact adds another piece to the understanding of how this ancient society functioned. The city, preserved in silence for thousands of years, now offers a clear and vivid connection to the people who lived and worked during one of Egypt's most successful periods. The tunnel under the Temple of the Sun, Teotihuacan, one of the largest ancient cities in the Americas, was built with impressive precision and planning. Its pyramids and avenues still stand today, but below the visible structures lies a hidden world that has remained sealed for nearly 2,000 years. Beneath the Temple of the Sun, the second largest pyramid on the site, archaeologists discovered a closed ritual tunnel filled with rare materials, liquid mercury, symbolic offerings, and architectural features that offer a clearer view of how Teotihuacan understood the cosmos. Teotihuacan thrived between the 1st and 6th century CE. At its height, the city controlled trade networks stretching across Mesoamerica. Its population included people from many regions, and its architecture reflected its power. But despite its influence, the identity of its rulers, the structure of its government, and many details of its religion remain uncertain, partly because the civilization left no decipherable written texts. Discoveries like the sealed tunnel beneath the Temple of the Sun help fill these gaps. The tunnel was first detected using electrical resistance scans that showed an unusual cavity beneath the pyramid. When excavation began, archaeologists uncovered a sealed entrance that had been intentionally closed with large stones. This suggested the tunnel had served its purpose and was never meant to be reopened. The structure extends deep below the pyramid, following a path carved directly into the bedrock. Its construction required organized labor and engineering skill, indicating the involvement of high-ranking officials or priestly authorities. Inside the tunnel, the most unexpected discovery was the presence of liquid mercury. Mercury does not occur naturally in metallic form in this region. To obtain it, ancient workers needed to heat cinnabar ore at high temperatures to extract the metal. The effort required to produce mercury and transport it underground shows intentional planning and symbolic purpose. In ancient Mesoamerica, mercury may have represented water, underworld rivers, or reflective surfaces associated with supernatural realms. Its shimmering appearance in torchlight likely created powerful visual effects during rituals. Along the length of the tunnel, thousands of ritual objects were recovered. These included jade pieces, obsidian blades, pyrite mirrors, seashells, rubber balls, and carved figurines. Many objects came from distant regions, demonstrating the wide reach of Teotihuacan's trade connections. Seashells originated from the Gulf of Mexico, while jade likely came from Central America. These items symbolized elements of the natural world and may have been used to create a miniature version of the universe within the tunnel. Sections of the tunnel contained carefully arranged micro-landscapes. These small features were built using stones, clay, pyrite, and other materials. Their shapes suggest representations of mountains, valleys, and bodies of water. Pyrite mirrors embedded in walls would have reflected torchlight, creating shimmering patterns that enhance the ritual setting. The combination of symbolic landscapes and reflective surfaces indicates that the tunnel served as a place where creation myths or cosmological events were reenacted. Archaeologists also found plant remains, seeds, animal bones, and burnt materials. These show that offerings of food, incense, and animals were part of ceremonies performed here. Burnt copal incense was identified in several locations, consistent with purification rituals. Bones from birds, dogs, and predatory animals were found in deposits that may represent sacrificial offerings intended to honor deities or mark significant ceremonial events. The tunnel's layout includes multiple chambers connected by narrow passageways. Each chamber contained different combinations of offerings, suggesting a symbolic journey from the outer entrance toward a deeper, more sacred center. The final chamber held the highest concentration of mercury and the most elaborate offerings. This space may have represented the heart of the earth, the point of origin in creation myths, or a symbolic portal to the underworld. Teotihuacan's religion placed strong emphasis on the relationship between earth, water, fire, and the sky. Pyramids function not only as monumental structures but also as symbols of mountains. The presence of a tunnel beneath the pyramid reinforces this symbolism, a mountain above and an underworld chamber below. Ritual participants may have ascended the pyramid to connect with the heavens and descended into the tunnel to engage with the Earth's depths, reflecting a cosmology based on balance between different realms. The offering of Mercury is particularly significant. Mercury was rare, difficult to obtain, and dangerous to handle. Its reflective surface would have created illusions resembling water, stars, or portals. Similar discoveries of Mercury in Maya tombs suggest the substance held strong symbolic importance across Mesoamerica. In Teotihuacan, Mercury may have represented the primordial waters from which the world was believed to have formed. The tunnel also contained large quantities of obsidian, a volcanic glass valued for its sharp edges and reflective qualities. Obsidian was used for ritual and martial purposes. The blades found underground appear to have been deposited as offerings rather than tools. Some were intentionally broken. A ritual practice seen across Mesoamerica where objects were symbolically killed before being offered to the gods. Figurines recovered from the tunnel show individuals wearing elaborate costumes, headdresses, and jewelry. These may represent priests, ancestors, or deities. Many figurines hold staffs, shields, or ritual accessories. Their careful placement suggests they played a role in ceremonies or served as ritual guardians. Animal bones provide further insight. Bird remains may symbolize the sky, while canine or predator bones could represent the earth or the underworld. These associations appear in other Mesoamerican traditions, supporting the idea that the tunnel represented a complete cosmological model. Construction techniques in the tunnel reveal advanced engineering. Workers carved through solid bedrock and installed stone linings in certain areas. Airflow was maintained through vertical shafts that opened discreetly near the pyramid above. Walls show traces of plaster and pigment, suggesting they were once decorated. The tunnel's shape and chambers were not accidental. They were planned to support ritual movement and controlled lighting. The combination of dark passageways, reflective mercury, and shining pyrite created an environment unlike any other known ritual space from ancient Mexico. Torchlight flickering against reflective surfaces would have created a sense of movement, depth, and illusion. These effects likely played a central role in the ceremonies performed there. The tunnel also provides clues about Teotihuacan's political system. The scale of the offerings and the complexity of the underground space indicate the involvement of the city's elite. Only a restricted group likely participated in or even understood the rituals conducted here. The deliberate sealing of the tunnel after use suggests the ceremonies had lasting significance, and the space was considered complete when closed. The mercury, pyrite, jade, obsidian, and seashells reflect a wide-ranging network of expertise and resources. Craftsmen, miners, traders, and priests all contributed to gathering and preparing the offerings. This level of coordination demonstrates the strength and organization of Teotihuacan society. The tunnel also provides insight into the city's decline. Teotihuacan experienced political and social changes in the 6th century, leading to internal conflict in the burning of major complexes. The sealing of the tunnel may mark a shift in leadership or a major ritual conclusion. While the surface city faced upheaval, the underground chamber remained intact, hidden beneath the pyramid. The discovery of the tunnel has reshaped understanding of the Temple of the Sun. The pyramid's purpose, once thought to be primarily ceremonial or astronomical, now appears more complex. The structure functioned as a monumental marker above a sacred underworld chamber. This dual structure reflects a worldview in which the cosmos was layered: heaven above, earth in the middle, and the underworld below. By studying the tunnel, researchers gain a clearer view of Teotihuacan's mythology. The city appears to have viewed creation as a process involving water, darkness, light, and sacred landscapes. The presence of symbolic mountains, lakes, and reflective surfaces supports this interpretation. Rituals performed in the tunnel may have reenacted these creation events, reinforcing the authority of the ruling class and the spiritual order of the city. Today, the tunnel remains an active area of study. Conservation teams work to preserve mercury deposits, stabilize walls, and protect fragile objects. Modern scanning methods continue to reveal additional features, and ongoing research brings new interpretations of the ritual practices carried out underground. The tunnel under the Temple of the Sun stands as one of the most important archaeological discoveries in Mesoamerica. Its sealed chambers, shimmering mercury, symbolic offerings, and complex architecture provide a rare view into the hidden spiritual world of Teotihuacan. Through this discovery, a more complete picture emerges of how the civilization understood creation, the underworld, and the forces that shaped their world. The vanished city of Tanis. Rediscovered, Tanis, once a major political and religious center in Egypt's Nile Delta, spent more than a century misunderstood. Known from ancient records as a royal capital and home to powerful pharaohs, it eventually became buried under layers of silt, broken monuments, and confusion. For many years, archaeologists believed Tanis was simply a collection of reused blocks taken from older cities. Its structure seemed scattered, its history unclear, and its size underestimated. But in 2024, new satellite scans transformed the understanding of this vanished city. High-resolution radar imaging revealed large buried structures beneath the delta's surface, showing that Tanis was far more organized and extensive than previously thought. What once appeared as isolated ruins now forms a full map of a functioning capital. Tanis rose to power after the New Kingdom collapsed. During the 21st and 22nd dynasties, the city became the seat of pharaohs who ruled a divided Egypt. Its rulers reused stone blocks from the abandoned capital of Pi-Ramesses, which confused excavations for decades. Temples bearing names of earlier kings appeared scattered across the site, making Tanis seem like a storage yard rather than a real capital. The new satellite imaging corrected this misunderstanding by revealing the true layout under the ground. The scans uncovered the full perimeter of Tanis's main temple enclosure. This precinct, dedicated to the gods Amun-Ra, Mut, and Khonsu, was far larger than its surface remains suggested. Satellite data revealed long buried walls, secondary shrines, and a processional path leading from the temple towards the city's edge. These features confirm Tanis as a major religious center capable of hosting large festivals and ceremonies. Another key discovery was the outline of a massive temple linked to Susannas I, one of the most influential rulers of the 21st dynasty. Although his golden burial mask and treasures were found at Tanis decades earlier, the full scale of his temple remained unknown. The new scans show a large rectangular foundation, suggesting Susannas invested heavily in expanding the city. Satellite images also revealed long, straight streets forming residential districts. These areas include rows of houses, workshops, storage buildings, and open courtyards. The buried streets follow a grid-like pattern, showing that Tanis was built with planned urban organization. Many houses were positioned near canals, emphasizing the importance of water transport in the delta. One major discovery is a cluster of large rectangular features believed to be storage magazines. Their size suggests state-level economic activity, including grain collection, taxation, and goods storage. Tanis likely served as a distribution hub for both political and religious institutions. A broad open area detected by radar appears to be a ceremonial plaza. Its shape and position imply it was used for festivals or public gatherings linked to temple rituals. Some channels in the region appear intentionally shaped to control water flow, suggesting water ceremonies may have been performed here. Excavations guided by the satellite data uncovered new artifacts, pottery, amulets, tools, jewelry, and building fragments. Many pieces were found in layers untouched since ancient times. The presence of imported pottery from the Levant, Nubia, and the Mediterranean shows that Tanis participated in international trade networks. Environmental studies indicate that the Nile's shifting branches repeatedly reshaped the landscape. Floods buried parts of the city under deep layers of silt. These natural changes explain why large parts of the city went unnoticed for so long. The buried layers preserved buildings and objects while hiding them from earlier excavators. The temple complex reveals a mix of architectural styles from different periods. Blocks from Ramesses II and earlier dynasties were reused in later constructions. Rather than simple recycling, this reuse served political purposes. The rulers of Tanis intentionally incorporated older monuments to link themselves to Egypt's celebrated past. The royal necropolis of Tanis, known for intact tombs containing gold and silver treasures, may extend further than previously believed. Satellite anomalies around the burial zone suggest additional chambers may lie underground. Future excavations may reveal new tombs belonging to other pharaohs or high officials. The rediscovered layout of Tanis shows extensive water management systems. Ancient canals and basins connected to the temple complex appear in radar images. These features may have supplied sacred lakes used in purification rituals. The delta environment required constant control of water levels, and Tanis's engineers managed these systems with skill. The separation between Pi-Ramesses and Tanis is now clearer. Although many blocks from Pi-Ramesses were moved to Tanis, satellite maps show that Tanis had its own distinct city plan. The confusion between the two sites has finally been resolved. Digital reconstructions now show Tanis as a complete capital. Large temples, administrative buildings, storage zones, workshops, and residential districts arranged along water channels. The city's design matches the scale and function of a royal center, not a scattered temple field. Tanis's decline appears linked to environmental shifts. As the Nile changed course again, canals dried up, and trade routes moved elsewhere. Without access to a major river channel, the city slowly lost political importance. Temples deteriorated, houses collapsed, and the shifting delta buried the remains. Over time, the city faded from memory. The modern rediscovery through satellite technology restores Tanis's significance. The new data finally reveals its true size and importance. Tanis is no longer seen as a confused collection of reused stones. It is once again recognized as a powerful capital with a large population, active trade networks, and monumental religious architecture. The 2024 satellite scans mark a turning point in the study of the city. Tanis now stands as one of Egypt's most important delta capitals. Its rediscovery highlights how much remains hidden beneath the surface, and how modern technology can bring lost cities back into view. The once vanished capital is visible again, with temples, streets, canals, and districts now mapped clearly. Each new excavation guided by these images reveals more about the people who lived there, the gods they worshipped, and the political power the city once held. Tanis, long hidden beneath layers of silt, is finally returning to history, not as a mystery, but as a fully understood ancient capital. The underwater road of the Baltic Sea. Under the waters of the Baltic Sea, off the coast of northern Germany, researchers made a discovery that reshapes the understanding of early human engineering. In 2024, a submerged stone structure was identified on the seafloor. What first appeared to be a natural ridge turned out to be a 10,000-year-old stone road, built long before the rise of agriculture, cities, or monumental architecture. This ancient structure predates the pyramids, Stonehenge, and most known megalithic constructions in Europe. The stone road lies roughly 20 meters beneath the surface. Underwater surveys revealed a line of more than 1,500 stones arranged in a continuous pattern stretching for nearly a kilometer. The stones are positioned with deliberate placement, forming a low wall or pathway across what was once dry land. During the late Ice Age, sea levels were far lower, and the Baltic region consisted of grasslands, lakes, and hunting territories. As the climate warmed, glaciers melted, and rising waters eventually submerged the landscape, preserving the stone structure beneath layers of sediment. The arrangement of stones shows a clear human design. They form an orderly line with consistent orientation. Many stones were moved from surrounding areas and placed in position, some weighing several hundred kilograms. This scale of effort suggests organized labor and purposeful construction. The road likely connected important seasonal hunting grounds or linked settlements across the landscape. At the time, groups of hunter-gatherers lived in the region, relying on migrations of large animals such as reindeer and wild horses. Analysis of the site indicates that the stone road functioned as a drive lane, a structure used to guide animals or channel them toward a specific area. Similar constructions have been found in ancient hunting landscapes across the world. The Baltic Road may have served the same purpose, helping hunters direct herds toward traps, lake shores, or narrow passages where they could be hunted more efficiently. The alignment of the stones supports this interpretation, tracing a route that once led toward a shallow basin where animals may have gathered. The discovery also reveals the social organization of early communities. Constructing a long stone alignment required planning and cooperation among multiple families or groups. Coordinated efforts to gather, transport, and position stones reflect a shared goal and a deep understanding of the environment. The people who built this road lived thousands of years before settled farming societies appeared in Europe. Yet their engineering shows the ability to reshape landscapes to meet practical needs. Sediment samples from around the stones contain remains of ancient plants, pollen, and animal bones. These samples allow researchers to reconstruct the environment at the time of construction. The landscape was cold but habitable, covered in grasses, shrubs, and sparse forests. Small lakes and marshlands provided water sources. Herds of large mammals moved seasonally through the region. The people who built the stone road adapted to these conditions, using the landscape to support hunting activities. The road's preservation is largely due to rising sea levels after the last ice age. As the Baltic filled with meltwater, the road became submerged. Over thousands of years, sediment layers accumulated, sealing the stones in a stable environment. Underwater archaeologists use sonar, photogrammetry, and remote-operated vehicles to map and document the structure. The water's low oxygen levels help preserve organic materials, giving researchers a chance to recover artifacts rarely found on land. So far, a number of tools and stone flakes have been recovered near the structure. These items match technologies used by hunter-gatherer groups around 10,000 years ago. Flint tools, blades, and scraping implements suggest animal processing took place nearby. The presence of these artifacts supports the idea that the road played a role in hunting or seasonal migration activities. The underwater road also adds to knowledge about human activity in northern Europe during the early Holocene period. Many landscapes from this era are now submerged along coastlines. Discoveries like the Baltic Road show how much remains hidden beneath the sea. As sea levels rose rapidly, entire settlements, hunting grounds, and travel routes were lost. The Baltic Sea alone may contain thousands of submerged structures waiting to be found. The discovery challenges the assumption that early European hunter-gatherers left little permanent impact on the landscape. The stone alignment demonstrates planning, engineering, and long-term use. Such constructions required effort beyond daily survival, showing that early communities invested time in enduring infrastructure. The road may have been used for generations, maintained by groups who returned seasonally to the same hunting territories. The location also suggests the region had cultural significance. The road may have connected different groups or marked territorial boundaries. Early communities often used natural features and stone alignments as markers for navigation or social organization. The consistent construction style across the length of the road implies shared knowledge and communal participation. Underwater mapping continues to reveal additional features near the structure. Small clusters of stones appear at crossroads or intersections, possibly marking resting spots or observation points. Some stones form small enclosures, which may have served as animal traps or temporary storage areas. These features give insight into how hunter-gatherer groups organized activities across the landscape. The Baltic region was once home to a rich ecosystem. The rising sea transformed it into a submerged archive of ancient life. As more underwater surveys are conducted, researchers expect to find other prehistoric constructions. The stone road is likely part of a larger network of structures used during the same period. The discovery also highlights the importance of technological advancements in archaeology. Satellite imaging, sonar mapping, and underwater drones allow researchers to identify submerged landscapes that were previously inaccessible. By combining these tools with traditional excavation methods, archaeologists can reconstruct ancient environments with increasing accuracy. The underwater road of the Baltic Sea adds a significant chapter to the understanding of early human engineering. It shows that long before agriculture or architecture emerged, communities were capable of modifying landscapes in complex ways. Their constructions were built for practical purposes, shaped by environmental knowledge and social cooperation. This ancient road, now quiet beneath the waves, reflects a world long vanished, a world where early humans blended survival skills with ingenuity. Its rediscovery reveals how much remains hidden beneath the sea, and how many ancient stories are still waiting to be uncovered. The Neolithic Stonehenge of the Amazon. In the far north of Brazil, in the state of Amapá, an ancient stone monument stands on a hill overlooking the surrounding forest. This remote place, known as Rego Grande, contains dozens of tall granite pillars arranged in deliberate patterns. Their alignment with the solstice sunrise has earned the site the name Stonehenge of the Amazon. For many people, the Amazon is associated with dense rainforest and isolated tribal communities, not with ancient megalithic architecture. The discovery of this site challenges that image and reveals a more complex history of early societies in the region. Rego Grande consists of a circular arrangement of upright stones, some reaching up to 3 meters in height. These stones were shaped from local granite and transported uphill to form a carefully planned monument. Archaeological studies show that the site dates to the late Neolithic period, more than 1,000 years before European contact. The stones were not simply placed in random order. Their layout shows clear astronomical intention, particularly the alignment of certain pillars with the rising sun on the winter solstice. During the solstice, sunlight passes directly through a pair of standing stones and casts a shadow across the central area. This effect indicates that the builders understood the movement of the sun and used the monument as a calendar. Such knowledge would have been important for marking seasons, organizing agricultural activities, and planning ceremonial events. The precision of the alignment suggests that the people who built the monument observed the sky over long periods and integrated this knowledge into their rituals. The site also contains smaller pits, stone fragments, and evidence of food preparation, indicating that Rego Grande was not only an astronomical marker, but also a gathering place. Ceramic fragments found around the stones show styles associated with ancient Amazonian communities. These ceramics display sophisticated decoration and firing techniques, suggesting a complex society with cultural traditions and skilled artisans. The stones themselves provide clues about the engineering methods used. Many show signs of shaping, smoothing, and intentional placement. The granite used in the monument is difficult to work, requiring knowledge of stone-breaking techniques and significant effort to move. The transport of these stones up the hill shows coordinated labor and planning. This construction represents a level of social organization not traditionally associated with early Amazonian societies. Radiocarbon dating of nearby charcoal remains suggests that Rego Grande was used over several centuries. This long period of use indicates that the site held lasting significance. The people who built and maintained the monument likely returned to it regularly for ceremonies, seasonal gatherings, or community events. The hilltop location provided a clear view of the horizon, making it ideal for astronomical observation. Excavations around the monument uncovered small circular pits containing fragments of pottery, stone tools, and ash. These pits may have held offerings, ritual fires, or materials used during ceremonies. The repetitive patterns of these features suggest organized activities carried out over many generations. The presence of burnt seeds and food remains shows that gatherings included feasting, a common element of ritual life in ancient societies. The discovery of Rego Grande changed the perception of the Amazon's past. For years, archaeologists believed that the rainforest environment limited the development of large or complex settlements. New research, including the discovery of earthworks, geoglyphs, and ancient urban networks in the Amazon basin, shows that early societies were more advanced than previously thought. The Amazon was home to communities capable of constructing monumental architecture and managing landscapes on a large scale. Rio Grande fits into this broader pattern of ancient Amazonian innovation. While it is not as massive as Stonehenge or other megalithic sites around the world, its existence shows that Neolithic societies in the Amazon developed their own architectural traditions. The stones demonstrate planning, astronomical knowledge, and cultural expression adapted to the local environment. Environmental studies help reconstruct the landscape at the time of construction. Thousands of years ago, the surrounding area contained savanna-like vegetation rather than dense forest. Seasonal variations shaped the lives of the people who lived there. The solstice alignments at Rio Grande would have helped guide subsistence cycles, such as fishing, hunting, planting, and harvesting. The site's elevated position suggests that it served as a landmark. From the hilltop, travelers could see the monument from a distance. Such visibility may have given the site symbolic authority, marking it as a central place for community identity. Many cultures around the world use stone monuments as markers of social power or spiritual significance, and Rio Grande likely served similar purposes. The stones may also have had symbolic meanings beyond astronomy. Some stones stand apart from the main circle, forming linear alignments or clusters. These arrangements may represent ritual paths or designated observation points. Other stones are set in small groups that may reflect clan divisions or ceremonial stations. Because the builders left no written records, interpretation relies on material evidence and comparisons with other indigenous traditions of the region. Studies of pottery and tools found near the monument reveal connections with nearby settlements. These artifacts indicate that Rio Grande was part of a broader cultural network. People may have traveled from surrounding areas for ceremonies, bringing goods, food, and offerings. Such gatherings would have reinforced social bonds and transmitted knowledge between generations. The site also shows how people adapted to changing environments. As climate conditions shifted and landscapes transformed, the use of the monument may have evolved. Some layers show periods of expanded activity, while others show decline. This pattern reflects changes in population, migration, and cultural priorities over time. The discovery of Rio Grande also raises questions about how much of the Amazon's ancient history remains undiscovered. Dense vegetation often hides archaeological features. Modern technology such as satellite mapping and LiDAR continues to reveal new structures across the region. These discoveries show that ancient Amazonian societies engaged in large-scale landscape modification, agriculture, and complex social organization. Rio Grande stands as a reminder that the Amazon's ancient inhabitants were not simple or isolated. They possessed knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and community planning. They built monuments aligned with celestial events and maintained them across generations. Their achievements form part of the broader story of human innovation. The site continues to be studied. Archaeologists are mapping additional features around the hill, analyzing ceramics, and testing soil samples. Each discovery adds to the understanding of how the monument functioned and what it meant to the people who built it. Future research may reveal older layers or additional structures that expand the picture of prehistoric activity in the region. Rio Grande, the Stonehenge of the Amazon, challenges assumptions about early South American societies. It shows that monumental architecture existed deep in the rainforest regions long before European arrival. The site demonstrates knowledge of astronomy, coordinated labor, and ceremonial tradition. Through its stones, it preserves the memory of a sophisticated culture whose achievements remained hidden for centuries beneath the Amazonian landscape. The buried fortress of Tal el Hammam. Tal el Hammam is one of the largest Bronze Age sites in the Jordan Valley, located northeast of the Dead Sea. For years, archaeologists recognized it as an important fortified city, but recent discoveries have brought new attention to its dramatic destruction. Evidence suggests the settlement was wiped out in a sudden, high-energy event around 1650 BCE. Some researchers propose that this event may have been caused by a cosmic airburst, an explosion in the atmosphere similar to the Tunguska event in Siberia. Because of the scale of destruction, Tal el Hammam has also been suggested by some scholars as a candidate for the ancient city of Sodom. While this identification remains debated, the archaeological findings reveal a city that experienced an unusually violent end. Tal el Hammam was a regional center with several distinct districts, including a fortified upper city and a larger lower city. Thick defensive walls, towers, administrative buildings, and storage facilities indicate a well-organized society. The city controlled trade routes and agricultural lands in the Jordan Valley, making it one of the major urban centers in the region during the Middle Bronze Age. Excavations show continuous occupation for centuries with growing wealth and complex infrastructure. The destruction layer is what makes the site unusual. Archaeologists uncovered a meter-thick deposit of broken mud bricks, smashed pottery, carbonized wood, and melted materials. Many structures collapsed in a uniform direction, suggesting a sudden force applied from above, rather than gradual decay or battle damage. Analysis of pottery sherds revealed high-temperature melting inconsistent with normal fires. Some surfaces show glazing, caused by temperatures higher than those produced in ancient kilns. Small mineral fragments found in the destruction layer contain materials that form under extreme heat and pressure. The evidence includes melted metal, burned clay, and pieces of quartz that appear shocked by high-energy impact. These clues led researchers to consider a cosmic airburst as a possible cause. An airburst is created when a meteor explodes in the atmosphere before hitting the ground. Such an explosion releases energy equivalent to a nuclear blast without leaving a crater. This type of event can flatten structures, ignite fires, and generate extreme heat across a wide area. Environmental studies around Tal el-Hammam support the sudden destruction hypothesis. The soil shows high salt concentration across a broad region, likely caused by the blast lofting Dead Sea minerals into the atmosphere and scattering them over the valley. This salinization would have damaged agriculture for centuries. Historical records from the area indicate a long period of abandonment after the city's destruction, consistent with a disaster that made the region temporarily uninhabitable. The city's fortifications provide further insight into its importance. The upper city was surrounded by massive walls built with mud brick on stone foundations. Towers reinforced the corners, and gates led into administrative compounds and storage rooms. Excavations uncovered large quantities of grain, pottery, and household items left in place, suggesting the population did not have time to flee. Rooms contain collapsed ceilings, fragmented vessels, and shattered building materials, all pointing to a rapid event. The lower city included residential neighborhoods and workshops. Houses were built with thick walls and organized around courtyards. Many of these structures show signs of violent collapse. Some walls were pushed outward, while roofs fell inward. Artifacts found inside include grinding stones, storage jars, and metal tools. Their positioning indicates daily life was underway at the time of destruction. One of the most telling discoveries is the presence of melted mud brick fragments. Mud brick melts only at extremely high temperatures, far higher than what burning timber or household fires can achieve. This suggests exposure to a sudden burst of intense heat. Melted plaster and pottery offer additional evidence of temperatures exceeding normal levels found in ancient settlements. The debris pattern also suggests a shock wave. Many objects were broken into small pieces and scattered in consistent directions. Human remains show fragmentation and burning, indicating exposure to a violent thermal event. While battles or fires can destroy cities, the combination of shock damage, high heat, and melting materials separates this destruction from typical warfare or accidental fires. Excavations uncovered a large palace-like structure in the upper city. Its walls were thick and well constructed, yet the entire building collapsed in a single event. Burned beams indicate that fires followed the initial explosion, consuming parts of the structure. The scale of destruction shows that even the strongest buildings in Tal el-Hammam could not withstand the force that hit the city. The possibility that Tal el-Hammam was the inspiration for the biblical story of Sodom remains a topic of discussion. The city's location fits some descriptions of the ancient text, and its violent destruction aligns with accounts of sudden catastrophe. However, definitive proof linking the site to Sodom has not been established, and many scholars urge caution. What is clear is that the city experienced a rare and powerful event, unlike normal human conflict. After the destruction, the region remained largely abandoned for centuries. The sudden rise in salt levels made agriculture difficult, and settlements did not return until the Iron Age. This long gap supports the idea of an environmental disaster impacting a wide area. When habitation eventually resumed, the settlement pattern was smaller and less centralized, indicating a shift in regional dynamics. The discovery of a cosmic airburst at Tal el-Hammam adds to global examples of similar events. The Tunguska explosion of 1908 flattened forests across thousands of square kilometers. Chelyabinsk in 2013 caused widespread damage despite exploding high in the atmosphere. Such events demonstrate how cosmic objects can impact the landscape without leaving an impact crater. Tal el-Hammam provides an ancient case study of this phenomenon. Archaeological work continues at the site. Researchers are conducting microscopic analysis of minerals to confirm shock features caused by rapid pressure changes. Soil samples are being tested to determine the spread of salt and its impact on agriculture. Satellite imagery helps reconstruct the city's layout before destruction, revealing a complex urban center with multiple districts, administrative areas, and monumental structures. Excavations also focus on understanding daily life in the city before the disaster. Pottery styles, food remains, and tools provide evidence of trade and cultural connections with nearby regions, including the Jordan Valley, the Dead Sea area, and parts of the Levant. Tal el-Hammam was part of a broader network of Bronze Age cities that traded goods such as grains, textiles, metals, and ceramics. The city's water systems reveal engineering skill. Channels and reservoirs directed water from seasonal rains. Agricultural fields surrounding the site show evidence of irrigation and long-term land management. The sudden destruction disrupted a thriving community with established infrastructure. The collapse of Tal el-Hammam marks a turning point in the region's history. Its destruction left a lasting scar on the landscape and reshaped settlement patterns in the Jordan Valley. The site study provides insight into rare natural disasters and their impact on ancient societies. Whether or not it corresponds to Sodom, the archaeological evidence tells the story of a city that flourished and then vanished in a single catastrophic moment. Tal el-Hammam stands today as a reminder of the powerful forces that can shape human history. Its ruins, buried under layers of debris, reveal a complex society brought to an abrupt end. Through ongoing excavation and scientific analysis, the site continues to offer important clues about ancient life, cosmic hazards, and the resilience of human communities. The Ice Age Mammoth Steppe Workshop. During the last Ice Age, long before farming or settled villages, parts of Siberia formed a vast grassland known as the Mammoth Steppe. It stretched from Europe to Alaska, supporting enormous herds of mammoths, bison, horses, and reindeer. In this cold, open environment, human groups developed unique survival strategies. One of the most remarkable examples is the discovery of mammoth bone dwellings, large circular huts built entirely from bones instead of wood. These structures reveal how Ice Age communities adapted to a harsh climate with creativity and engineering skill. Several sites across Russia and Ukraine contain these unusual dwellings, but one Siberian site stands out for its size and preservation. Excavations uncovered a circular hut made from hundreds of mammoth bones arranged with clear planning. Large bones such as tusks, femurs, and skulls were stacked to form walls. Smaller bones filled gaps for insulation. The structure likely had a dome-like roof made from hides stretched over the bone frame. This design provided warmth, shelter from wind, and protection during long winters. The construction shows an organized approach to building. Mammoth skulls were placed at key points to stabilize the base. Long tusks created arch-like supports. Leg bones were positioned vertically, like pillars. The placement suggests a shared architectural tradition among hunter-gatherer groups familiar with mammoth anatomy and structural balance. These huts were not temporary shelters, but durable dwellings used over extended periods. The mammoth bone hut reflects the environment of the time. Trees were scarce in the open steppe, making wood difficult to obtain. Mammoths, however, were abundant. When animals died naturally or were hunted, their bones became valuable resources. Bone is strong, resistant to decay, and capable of bearing weight. Using bones for construction allowed communities to create stable homes even in treeless areas. The technique highlights how early humans could transform available materials into practical solutions. Excavations inside the hut revealed hearths, stone tools, and remains of burned bones. These features indicate that the dwelling was used for cooking, heating, and tool production. Hearths served as central points for daily activities. Charcoal and ash layers helped determine how often fires were lit and how long the structure remained occupied. The presence of multiple hearths suggests extended or repeated use. Stone tools found at the site include blades, scrapers, and cutting implements made from flint and quartz. These tools were used for processing animal hides, cutting meat, shaping bones, and crafting tools. The variety of tools suggests specialized activities took place inside the hut. Some tools showed polish and wear patterns indicating long-term use. Tool fragments and waste materials reveal that tool-making occurred directly at the site. Animal remains provide clues about diet. Besides mammoth bones used for construction, other species such as reindeer, horse, and fox were found. These remains show that hunting was diverse and based on seasonal availability. Burned bones reveal that marrow extraction was common, providing vital fat and calories. The combination of food remains indicates a well-adapted subsistence strategy. Soil samples from inside the hut contain microscopic plant remains showing that grasses and shrubs were brought inside, possibly as bedding or insulation. Layers of soil, ash, and debris help reconstruct the sequence of occupation. These details give insight into daily life during the Ice Age. The hut's location on a slight rise shows strategic planning. Elevated ground reduced snow accumulation and provided visibility across the open steppe. Proximity to water sources and animal migration paths would have influenced settlement choices. Groups likely returned to the same region seasonally, building new huts or repairing older ones based on available bones. One of the most remarkable aspects of these sites is the sheer number of mammoth bones involved. Some huts required more than 50 animals. This does not necessarily mean all were hunted. Natural deaths, carnivore scavenging, and seasonal river floods contributed to bone accumulation. People collected bones from across the landscape and transported them to the building site. The effort required suggests cooperation among groups and shared labor. The presence of decorative objects at the site provides insight into symbolic behavior. Beads made from ivory and bone, engraved pieces, and shaped ornaments were found near living areas. These items show that Ice Age communities expressed identity, ritual, or social connection through artistic traditions. The mammoth bone huts may have been more than functional dwellings. They may have served as centers for community gatherings or ceremonial events. Recent studies using stable isotope analysis help understand the local climate. Mammoth bones preserve chemical signatures that reflect the vegetation and environment of the time. These analyses show the region experienced cold, dry conditions with strong seasonal changes. The building of bone huts fits well with this setting, where reliable shelter was essential for survival. Analysis of burned mammoth bones found in the hearths also suggests people used bones as fuel. In treeless landscapes, bone burns longer than wood and produces steady heat. Using bones for both construction and fuel demonstrates a broad understanding of available resources. The dual use of mammoth remains indicates an efficient strategy for living in extreme conditions. Studies of wear marks on bones used in construction show that many were intentionally shaped or modified. Edges were trimmed, surfaces were flattened, and bones were adjusted to interlock. This work required skill and planning. It also suggests that mammoth bone architecture was a well-established tradition, not an isolated invention. The hut represents a larger pattern of Ice Age innovation. Across the mammoth steppe, humans developed specialized tools, symbolic objects, and large-scale constructions. These achievements challenge older assumptions that early hunter-gatherers lived only in simple shelters. Instead, the evidence points to organized communities capable of building durable structures and managing long-term habitation. The Siberian mammoth bone hut also contributes to the understanding of social organization. Constructing such a dwelling required cooperation among multiple individuals. Planning the structure, gathering bones, arranging them, and maintaining the hut were group efforts. This teamwork reveals a level of social cohesion and shared responsibility within these Ice Age communities. As the climate warmed and the mammoth steppe disappeared, the tradition of building with mammoth bones declined. Forests expanded, mammoths became rare, and new materials and methods were adopted. The bone huts therefore represent a specific adaptation to a unique environment. Their preservation under layers of soil and permafrost provides a rare window into life during the late Pleistocene. Ongoing research at the site uses advanced technologies to create digital reconstructions of the hut. Laser scanning and 3D modeling reveal how the structure originally stood, how bones interlocked, and how the roof may have been supported. These reconstructions help visualize the environment and daily life of the people who lived there. The mammoth bone hut of Siberia stands as one of the most remarkable examples of Ice Age engineering. It shows how early humans understood materials, adapted to challenging landscapes, and built structures capable of withstanding severe cold. The hut is not only a shelter but evidence of a complex culture that developed unique solutions for survival. Today, the site continues to be studied for clues about human behavior, climate, and adaptation. Each bone, tool, and hearth adds another detail to the broader understanding of Ice Age life. The mammoth bone dwellings remain among the most striking reminders of human creativity during a period when survival depended on innovation, cooperation, and deep knowledge of the natural world. The Viking ship burial of Gjelstad. In 2020, archaeologists in southeastern Norway made one of the most important Viking discoveries in recent decades. Using ground-penetrating radar, they identified the outline of a large Viking ship still buried beneath a mound at Gjelstad, near the border of Sweden. Although plowed fields had flattened the original mound, the ship's structure remained in place, revealing a rare and valuable glimpse into Viking burial practices. Ship graves of this scale are known from only a handful of sites, making Gjelstad particularly significant. The ship measures over 20 meters in length, placing it among the larger Viking vessels used for elite burials. The outline detected by radar shows the keel, ribs, and internal structure clearly preserved in the soil. While the wood itself has decayed, the impressions left behind provide a detailed map of the ship's form. Some sections still contain fragments of surviving timber, allowing researchers to study construction methods and determine the type of vessel originally buried. Ship burials were reserved for individuals of high status, leaders, chieftains, or people connected to powerful families. The ship served both as a symbol of authority and a vehicle for the journey into the afterlife. By placing the deceased inside a ship and covering it with a mound, the community demonstrated respect and reinforced the individual's position even after death. The ship represented protection, power, and connection to the maritime world that shaped Viking society. Excavations around the ship revealed several burial-related features. Archaeologists identified traces of a surrounding ditch, marking the original mound's boundary. This ditch held stones and soil that once formed a large circular structure encasing the ship. The mound would have been visible from a distance, serving as a territorial marker for the community. Its size suggests that the burial was an event of regional importance. Artifacts found within and around the ship provide clues about the individuals buried there. Metal nails, rivets, and fittings were discovered in their original positions, marking where planks once joined. Their arrangement helps reconstruct the shape and design of the vessel. Additionally, fragments of weapons, tools, and personal items were found, though many had deteriorated over time. These objects indicate that the burial included offerings representing status, daily life, or symbolic meaning. The site also contains several other burial mounds and longhouses, showing that Gjelstad was an important settlement during the Iron Age and Viking Age. The presence of multiple monuments suggests a community with significant social and political influence. Longhouses near the ship burial indicate that families lived and farmed the land for generations. The settlement's layout, with houses, fields, and graves positioned in relation to one another, reflects a structured social landscape. Environmental studies show that the area around Gjelstad was fertile and strategically located. The land offered good farming conditions, and the nearby coastline provided access to waterways. These factors made the location ideal for settlement and trade. The ship burial, therefore, likely belongs to a community engaged in maritime activity, agriculture, and regional exchange. Ground-penetrating radar played a crucial role in the discovery. Traditional excavation methods may have missed the ship entirely, as its wooden structure had largely decomposed. Radar allowed researchers to detect the shape and size of the vessel without disturbing the soil. The technology revealed not only the ship, but also other buried features such as smaller graves, post holes, and traces of buildings. This non-invasive survey created a full map of the ancient landscape. During excavation, archaeologists uncovered the keel and several ribs of the ship. These remains allowed precise measurement of the vessel. The keel showed signs of careful craftsmanship, consistent with Viking shipbuilding traditions. The size and shape suggest the ship was capable of ocean travel before being repurposed for burial. The vessel may have carried the deceased in life and death, linking their identity to voyages and exploration. Soil layers within the grave mound contain remains of wooden beams, textiles, and organic material. These layers provide a timeline of construction, use, and decay. The layering shows that the burial was a single event rather than a long-term process. After the ship was placed, the mound was built quickly, sealing the vessel and its contents. Chemical analysis of the soil helps identify objects that no longer survive. High concentrations of iron indicate the presence of weapons or tools that rusted away. Traces of copper suggest ornamentation or fittings once present in the grave. These chemical signatures help reconstruct the burial inventory, offering insight into status and symbolic practices. Gjelstad's significance extends beyond the ship itself. The site offers a rare opportunity to study the relationship between daily life and monumental burial traditions. Longhouses near the mound show everyday activities, farming, craft production, storage, and cooking. Their proximity indicates that ancestors were buried close to living communities, reinforcing social continuity. The surrounding area contains additional burial mounds of different sizes. Some may hold cremations, while others contain smaller boat graves. The variety of burial types shows a range of social ranks and traditions within the community. Larger mounds like the Gjelstad ship indicate elite status, while smaller graves represent extended family members or individuals of lower rank. The discovery also highlights how Viking burial practices evolved over time. Early Iron Age burials in the region used smaller boats or wooden chambers. By the Viking Age, larger ships became symbols of status. The Gjelstad ship fits into this later tradition, showing how maritime culture shaped funerary customs. Archaeologists use 3D modeling to reconstruct the ship's original appearance. By analyzing the shape of the keel and ribs, they estimate the height of the sides and the curve of the hull. The vessel likely had a sleek design suitable for both rowing and sailing. These reconstructions help visualize the monument as it once stood beneath the mound. The excavation revealed evidence of rituals performed during the burial. Burned patches of soil, scattered animal bones, and fragments of pottery suggest that ceremonies took place around the mound. These rituals may have involved feasting, offerings, or symbolic actions meant to honor the deceased and strengthen community bonds. Gjelstad's discovery also provides new information about Viking-era political structures. Large ship burials were typically associated with regional leaders who controlled land, trade, or military forces. The presence of such a burial suggests that Gjelstad was part of a network of powerful settlements. Its leadership may have played a role in local alliances, defense, or economic exchange. Preservation of the ship depends heavily on soil conditions. Norway's wet climate poses challenges, as moisture can accelerate decay. Archaeologists are working to stabilize the remains and protect them for future study. Some sections have been removed for conservation, while others remain in the ground to prevent exposure. The Gjelstad ship burial stands as one of Norway's most important archaeological finds. It offers a rare look into Viking funerary traditions, shipbuilding technology, and social hierarchy. The combination of radar surveying, careful excavation, and scientific analysis makes it possible to reconstruct both the vessel and the world surrounding it. The buried ship connects the landscape of Gjelstad with the broader story of Viking society, its leaders, its rituals, and its enduring connection to the sea. The 5,000-year-old Temple of Enheduanna. In 2023, excavations at the ancient city of Ur in southern Iraq revealed one of the most significant discoveries in Mesopotamian archaeology. The probable residence and temple complex associated with Enheduanna, the world's first known author to sign her name. Living around 2300 BCE, Enheduanna was the daughter of Sargon of Akkad and served as the high priestess of the moon god Nana. Her writings, inscriptions, and political influence made her one of the earliest recorded literary and religious figures in human history. The newly uncovered structures help bring her world into clearer focus. The site lies within the broader sacred district of Ur, close to the famous ziggurat of Ur. For many years, archaeologists suspected that the residence of the high priestess must be located somewhere near this monumental structure. However, previous excavations had not identified a dedicated building. The 2023 excavation revealed architectural remains that matched descriptions found in ancient texts: large courtyards, administrative rooms, ritual chambers, and storage areas arranged in a well-organized layout. The complex consists of thick mud brick walls built on stone foundations. The rooms are arranged around central courtyards that allowed light and airflow. Some chambers contain raised platforms that may have served as altars or workspaces. The size and arrangement suggest that the building served multiple functions: religious ceremonies, administrative duties, storage of offerings, and residence for priestly personnel. The design reflects the importance of the priestess in the political and spiritual life of Ur. One of the most remarkable finds is a carved stone fragment bearing an inscription connected to Enheduanna's titles. The inscription mentions the priestess, a role she held as spiritual leader and political representative for the Akkadian Empire within Sumerian territory. This fragment, found in a controlled context, strengthens the association between the building and Enheduanna's historical presence. Ceramic vessels, seal impressions, and ritual tools were found across the site. Seals depict scenes of worship, offerings, and ceremonial process. These items provide insight into the daily activities carried out within the temple residence. Ceilings once attached to containers or storerooms show that the complex managed food, goods, and temple supplies. Some vessels contain residue of incense or aromatic oils used in ceremonies dedicated to the moon god. One room contained a series of burned layers and ash deposits, suggesting ritual fire activities. Small offering bowls arranged in a row indicate a space used for repeated ceremonies. Another room held stone weights, clay tablets, and administrative tools, showing that record-keeping and economic management played a major role in the priestess's responsibilities. The high priestess functioned not only as a religious figure, but also as an administrator, overseeing labor, goods, and temple finances. The discovery also includes fragments of tablets written in cuneiform. While many are broken and incomplete, several contain hymns and administrative entries consistent with the period of the Akkadian Empire. These tablets offer a connection to the literary world Enheduanna inhabited, a world where writing served political, religious, and artistic purposes. Enheduanna's own compositions, such as the Exaltation of Inanna, helped establish the foundation of Mesopotamian literary tradition. Environmental studies at the site help reconstruct daily life. Soil samples reveal traces of grain, dates, and other agricultural products stored in the complex. Remains of animal bones show offerings conducted during ceremonies. Pollen samples provide information about plants used in rituals or grown in temple gardens. These details present a picture of a self-sustaining institution, tied closely to the economic life of the city. The architecture of the complex shows similarities with other high-status buildings of the time. Thick walls provided insulation against heat, while courtyards allowed for outdoor activities protected from wind and sand. Staircases and raised platforms suggest multiple levels or rooftop spaces used for observing the moon, an important part of the temple's religious calendar. Rituals related to lunar phases were a major part of Enheduanna's duties as high priestess. The location of the building near the ziggurat of Ur emphasizes its significance. The ziggurat functioned as a symbolic mountain and a link between the human world and the divine. The high priestess played a key role in maintaining that connection through daily rituals and seasonal festivals. proximity to the ziggurat allowed quick access to major ceremonial spaces during important events. Artifacts found within the complex show a mixture of local and imperial influences. While many items follow traditional Sumerian styles, others reflect Akkadian design elements. This mixture mirrors Enheduanna's unique position as both a daughter of the Akkadian ruler and a religious leader within a Sumerian city-state. Her role helped unify different cultural traditions through ritual, writing, and political authority. One of the most informative discoveries is a large storage hall containing jars, containers, and clay ceilings. These objects reveal the scale of offerings and temple activities. The hall also contains evidence of textile production, including spindle whorls and tools for weaving. Textiles were important offerings for deities and symbols of status. Their presence suggests the complex housed workers who produced garments used in ceremonies. Excavators found traces of water channels beneath parts of the building. These channels show how the complex managed drainage and sanitation. Water played an important role in purification rituals, and the layout suggests designated areas for washing offerings or preparing ceremonial items. These practical features show the integration of religious and functional activities. The presence of imported materials indicates far-reaching connections. Items made from lapis lazuli, copper, and marble were discovered. These materials came from regions such as Iran, Afghanistan, and possibly Anatolia. Their presence reflects the wealth and status associated with the High Priestess and the expansive trade networks of the Akkadian Empire. The building's destruction layer shows signs of fire and collapse, possibly connected to political unrest during the decline of the Akkadian Empire. Burned bricks and collapsed walls mark the end of the building's use. After the collapse, the site underwent rebuilding during later periods, but key features of the original complex remained buried until recent excavations. The rediscovery of the temple residence provides a clearer understanding of Enheduanna's world. It demonstrates that her role was not symbolic but deeply embedded in the political, economic, and religious life of Urartu. Her writings reflect personal experience within this setting, where she performed rituals, managed temple affairs, and maintained her position during periods of conflict. The complex also highlights the importance of women in early Mesopotamian leadership. As High Priestess, Enheduanna wielded authority equivalent to that of regional governors. She played a diplomatic role between Sumerian cities and the Akkadian Empire, helping maintain stability through religious legitimacy and cultural integration. Digital models of the site now help researchers visualize the complex. These reconstructions show interconnected courtyards, administrative rooms, storage areas, and ritual spaces forming a unified structure. The models allow further study of movement patterns, architectural relationships, and the daily routines of those who lived and worked there. The excavation at expands modern understanding of early literature. Enheduanna's writings, inscribed in clay thousands of years ago, come to life when connected to the spaces where they were composed. Her hymns describe devotion, conflict, and restoration, themes reflected in the political environment around her. The temple residence provides physical context for the world's first named author. The 5,000-year-old temple of Enheduanna stands today as a bridge between archaeology, history, and literature. It reveals the daily life, responsibilities, and environment of a remarkable figure whose voice has survived across millennia. The discovery reinforces the importance of as a cultural and religious center and highlights the lasting influence of one of history's earliest recorded authors. The Roman Sphinx of the Netherlands. In 2023, archaeologists working in the Dutch city of Nijmegen uncovered an object that immediately stood out from thousands of other Roman finds in northern Europe, a finely carved marble sphinx head. The discovery surprised researchers because sphinx statues were common in the Mediterranean world, but extremely rare in regions north of the Alps. The presence of such a sculpture in the Netherlands shows how far Roman art, beliefs, and luxury goods traveled during the empire's expansion. Nijmegen is the oldest city in the Netherlands, with a long history of Roman military occupation and settlement. Located along the Rhine frontier, it served as a major base for legions defending the northern boundaries of the empire. The area contained barracks, supply depots, administrative buildings, bathhouses, and civilian neighborhoods. Many Roman objects have been found here over the years, including pottery, glassware, tools, and inscriptions. However, a marble sphinx head is unlike any previous discovery from the region. The sculpture is carved from fine marble, a material not native to the Netherlands. This means it was imported from southern Europe, likely from quarries in Italy or Greece. The style suggests a Roman interpretation of the Sphinx, blending Egyptian influence with classical artistic features. The head shows carefully carved hair, defined facial features, and traces of the body it once belonged to. Although only the head survived, its size and quality indicate it was part of a larger decorative statue. The Sphinx in Roman culture symbolized protection, knowledge, and the power of guardianship. While Egyptian sphinxes were most commonly associated with pharaohs and temples, the Romans adapted the imagery for villas, gardens, and public buildings. Sphinx statues often appeared at entrances, staircases, and courtyards to serve as protective figures. They were also used in funerary contexts, where they symbolized the transition between life and death. The presence of a sphinx in Nijmegen shows that Roman elites living in the northern frontier adopted Mediterranean artistic traditions, even in distant territories. The sphinx head was discovered in a pit containing other architectural fragments. These included pieces of columns, wall decorations, and stone blocks from a building that once stood in the settlement. The mixture of materials indicates that the structure was dismantled in antiquity, and the debris was reused or discarded. The Sphinx may have decorated a villa, a public bath, or an administrative building. Its high-quality craftsmanship suggests it belonged to an important structure rather than an ordinary home. Excavations at the site revealed layers of occupation, dating back to the 1st and 2nd centuries CE, when Nijmegen was a significant Roman center. The discovery of the Sphinx in this context shows that the settlement enjoyed a level of cultural and economic connection with the Mediterranean world. Imported artworks were expensive, requiring long-distance transport and the approval of elite patrons. The Sphinx therefore reflects not only artistic taste, but also social status. Nearby archaeological features help reconstruct the environment in which the sculpture once stood. Foundations of large buildings suggest the presence of administrative or ceremonial spaces. Tiles, heating pipes, and decorated plaster indicate rooms with underfloor heating and painted walls, consistent with Roman architectural standards. Such buildings often included decorative sculptures as part of their design. The Sphinx may have stood at the entrance of a formal hall or courtyard, where visitors would encounter it upon entry. Fragments of painted plaster found near the Sphinx show that walls in the nearby building were decorated with red, white, and blue pigments. These colors were common in Roman interior design. The presence of such decorative elements reinforces the idea that the complex belonged to wealthy residents or important officials. Combined with the Sphinx, these features indicate a deliberate attempt to recreate southern Roman culture in the northern provinces. The discovery also reflects the diversity of people living in Nijmegen at the time. Roman soldiers stationed here came from all parts of the empire, bringing their traditions and artistic preferences with them. Merchants, craftsmen, and local inhabitants interacted regularly with Roman officials. Imported luxury items symbolize the cultural blending that occurred along the frontier. The Sphinx head, though originally a Mediterranean object, became part of daily life in a northern settlement. Studies of the marble reveal patterns of tool marks consistent with Roman sculpting techniques. The carving shows skill in shaping facial features and hair, indicating that the work was produced by a trained artisan. The marble's grain and texture match stone from the Mediterranean region, supporting the idea that the sculpture was shipped to the Netherlands rather than carved locally. Transporting such a piece required careful packing and skilled labor, reflecting the value placed on decorative art. Archaeologists also examined the Sphinx's position within the pit. The head was broken from its body before burial, suggesting intentional destruction or dismantling. This could have occurred during renovations, structural collapse, or political changes. When Roman buildings fell into disuse, sculptures were often broken apart and reused as building material. The Sphinx may have suffered the same fate, buried during the transformation of the settlement. The context in which the Sphinx was found includes military barracks and civilian houses. This mixture reflects the changing role of Nijmegen across the centuries. The settlement evolved from a military fortress into a civilian town with markets, workshops, and administrative centers. The presence of luxury items like the Sphinx shows that some inhabitants lived in comfort comparable to residents of major Roman cities. Environmental remains from the site provide a picture of local life. Animal bones, seeds, and pottery fragments show diets based on grain, vegetables, livestock, and imported foods such as olives and wine. These goods arrived via river trade routes connecting the Rhine to the Roman heartland. The same routes likely carried the Sphinx to Nijmegen. The Sphinx discovery adds to the understanding of Roman frontier culture. While the region was far from Rome, its inhabitants adopted Roman customs, architecture, and artistic traditions. The presence of high-quality sculptures in distant provinces reflects the spread of Roman identity across the empire. It also shows how elite households displayed wealth and status through imported art. Additional excavations around Nijmegen continue to uncover evidence of Roman life. Streets, wells, workshops, and burial sites reveal a thriving community connected to the broader empire. The Sphinx contributes to this picture, offering a rare example of Mediterranean art found so far north. The site's researchers are now using 3D scanning to create digital models of the Sphinx head. These models help reconstruct the missing body and determine how the original statue looked. Comparisons with other Roman sphinxes indicate that the Nijmegen Sphinx may have had a reclining or seated posture, commonly used in Roman sculpture. The digital reconstruction helps visualize the statue in its original architectural context. The discovery also encourages re-examination of other stone fragments found in the region. Pieces previously identified as architectural debris may actually belong to larger decorative programs that once adorned important buildings. The Sphinx prompts renewed interest in the artistic landscape of Roman Nijmegen. The sculpture's presence demonstrates that artistic symbols traveled far beyond their regions of origin. Egyptian-inspired motifs became part of Roman culture and spread across the empire. The Sphinx in Nijmegen reflects this cultural blending, illustrating how distant communities participated in a shared artistic tradition. Today, the Sphinx stands as a connection between the Netherlands and the ancient Roman world. Its discovery reshapes the understanding of local history, showing that even frontier regions held sophisticated art and architecture. The marble head, preserved for centuries beneath the soil, testifies to the reach of Roman influence and the complexity of life along the empire's northern border. The giant Moai Road of Rano Raraku. Rano Raraku, the volcanic quarry on Easter Island, has long been known as the birthplace of the island's iconic Moai statues. For centuries, questions surrounded how these massive stone figures were carved, transported, and raised across the landscape. Recent excavations have revealed that the Moai were not simply moved from the quarry to different locations but were part of a sacred processional route. The road leading out of Rano Raraku formed a ceremonial pathway, shaped by ritual and cultural meaning, rather than purely practical engineering. This discovery helps explain the deeper significance of the Moai and the landscape that surrounds them. The quarry at Rano Raraku contains nearly half of all Moai on the island. Many lie partially buried, standing upright in pits that once held them during carving. Others remain attached to bedrock, showing different stages of the carving process. The Moai, carved from compressed volcanic ash, vary in size, but many reach heights of 10 meters or more. Their distinct features, elongated faces, heavy brows, and tall torsos, represent ancestral figures believed to hold spiritual power. The recent excavations focused on the ancient roads extending from the quarry. These roads, long covered by soil and vegetation, revealed compacted surfaces lined with stones. Their design shows that they were carefully constructed paths rather than simple transport routes. The roads slope gently upward toward the island's ceremonial platforms, known as a hahu. This upward incline made transport more difficult, but had symbolic importance, connecting the quarry to sacred spaces. Archaeologists found moai standing along the sides of these ancient roads. Many appear incomplete or abandoned, but their placement suggests intentional positioning rather than accidental abandonment. The statues were arranged to face inland, overlooking the paths. Their orientation indicates they may have served as guardians, watching over processions or marking stages of a ritual journey. This new interpretation challenges earlier ideas that the moai along the roads were simply statues that fell during transport. Excavations revealed that the roads were engineered to curve gently around the island's terrain. Their width and construction show that they were designed for groups of people walking together rather than hauling heavy loads. The compacted surfaces and lined edges reflect repeated ceremonial use. Tools and stone flakes found beside the roads show that workers shaped and adjusted surfaces over time. These features suggest the roads functioned as spiritual pathways linked to ancestral worship. Analysis of soil layers indicates that vegetation once grew along the route. Pollen samples show evidence of native palms and shrubs that were part of the landscape during the height of moai construction. These plants may have lined the processional route, enhancing its ceremonial atmosphere. The presence of water channels and small stone structures suggests the path included rest points or areas for ritual activities. The moai themselves give clues about the route's purpose. Statues placed along the roads have unfinished backs or incomplete carving, yet their faces are fully formed. This pattern implies they were intended to stand along the route rather than be transported further. Their placement would have created a continuous line of ancestral figures guiding participants along the sacred path from the quarry to the ahu. The quarry at Rano Raraku was more than a workshop. Excavations uncovered evidence of ritual activities, including pits filled with tools, pigments, and offerings. Some moai show signs of intentional burial, suggesting ritual significance. Carving the statues was likely both a technical and spiritual act, connecting the community to its ancestors. The processional road extended this connection outward, linking the place of creation to the spaces where the statues were finally erected. The new understanding of the road also clarifies how the moai were moved. Earlier theories suggested sliding or rolling the statues on logs. More recent experiments showed that teams could walk the statues upright using ropes and coordinated movement. The gentle curves of the ancient roads support this idea. The statues could be rocked forward in small steps, following the path's curves and slopes. This method aligns with oral traditions describing the moai as walking to their destinations. Excavations along the road revealed tools used to shape the statues and maintain the path. These included basalt picks, scrapers, and hammerstones. Their distribution shows that craftsmen worked not only at the quarry, but also along the path, making adjustments as statues were moved. Some tools appear intentionally placed, possibly as offerings to ancestors or to bless the route. The processional route leads toward Oahu platforms located along the coastline. These platforms served as communal gathering places, ritual centers, and burial sites for elite individuals. The moai were positioned on top of these platforms, facing inland to watch over the villages. The connection between the quarry and the Ahu underscores the moai's role as protectors and symbols of lineage. Moving a statue from Rano Raraku to an Ahu may have represented the journey of an ancestor joining the living community. Studies of surrounding landscapes show that the processional route was part of a larger network of paths. These paths connected quarries, villages, agricultural fields, and coastal ceremonial spaces. The island's layout reflects a society with strong ties to ancestors and shared cultural practices. The roads at Rano Raraku were central to this system, linking production, ritual, and community identity. The discovery of the processional road changes the understanding of Easter Island's history. It shifts attention from how the statues were transported to why they were moved and how the journey itself formed part of their meaning. The movement of moai along the road may have been a communal ritual involving singing, coordination, and careful preparation. The statues likely represented ancestors guiding the community toward important ceremonies. Excavations at Rano Raraku also show that the quarry was a social and cultural gathering point. Evidence of tools, food remains, and temporary shelters suggests that workers lived at the site for extended periods. Their activities formed part of a larger ritual process. Stone carvings on the quarry walls depict human figures, animals, and symbols, providing insight into the beliefs and artistic expressions of the time. The road's construction reflects technical skill. Builders created stable surfaces by layering stones, soil, and compacted materials. Drainage systems prevented erosion during rains. The well-preserved sections show that the road was maintained over generations. Its durability ensured that rituals could continue across centuries as new moai were carved and moved. The placement of moai along the road reveals a narrative sequence. Each statue may have marked a stage in the ceremonial journey or represented a member of a particular ancestral line. Their arrangement creates a visual story linking the quarry to the aha. This arrangement adds depth to the beliefs surrounding the moai, showing that they were part of a system of ritual movement, not isolated monuments. Environmental changes eventually disrupted the processional system. Deforestation, soil erosion, and changing social dynamics led to the decline of moai construction. The roads fell into disuse, and the island's population faced significant challenges. Despite this decline, the roads and statues remained as reminders of a complex cultural system based on lineage, ritual, and engineering. Today, the excavated sections of the processional route give insight into one of the most remarkable achievements of the ancient Polynesian world. The discovery helps explain how the island's people integrated engineering, religion, and social organization into a unified cultural tradition. It reveals how the moai connected different parts of the landscape, creating a pathway of ancestors stretching from the quarry to the coastline. The giant moai road of Rano Raku stands as a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of the society that built it. The road reflects a worldview where the movement of statues was not just practical, but ceremonial. Through continued research, the road and its statues continue to reveal the cultural landscape that shaped Easter Island's history. The lost necropolis of Saqqara's catacombs. The Saqqara Plateau in Egypt is one of the most expansive burial landscapes in the ancient world. Known for its step pyramid, mastabas, and royal tombs, Saqqara has been a center of ritual and burial activity for more than 3,000 years. Beneath its surface lies a vast network of tunnels, shafts, and chambers forming a multi-level necropolis unlike any other in Egypt. Recent excavations have revealed deep catacombs filled with thousands of mummified animals, statues, offering jars, and ritual objects. These discoveries show that Saqqara's underground world played a major role in religious life and served as a center for massive cult activity connected to several major deities. These tunnels were built during different periods, primarily from the late period through the Ptolemaic era. Their purpose was to house sacred animals associated with gods such as Bastet, Anubis, Ptah, and Thoth. The mummified remains show a large-scale ritual system in which animals were bred, prepared, and buried as offerings. This practice reflects a deep belief that certain animals could act as intermediaries between humans and the divine. One of the most extensive sections is the Bubastion, the catacombs dedicated to Bastet, the feline goddess associated with protection and motherhood. Thousands of mummified cats were placed in the tunnels, wrapped in linen, and stored in niches carved into the walls. Some were placed in stone or wooden coffins, while others were wrapped in decorated bundles. Statues of Bastet made from bronze, wood, or faience were also found, along with votive offerings left by worshippers. Nearby lies the Anubiine, the catacomb dedicated to the jackal god Anubis. This area contains mummified dogs, jackals, and foxes. Many animals were buried in large communal pits, while others were placed in carefully prepared chambers. Offerings found in the Anubiine include miniature coffins, amulets, and small statues representing Anubis. The presence of these items indicates a ritual economy in which pilgrims purchased offerings to seek protection or blessings. Another important structure at Saqqara is the Serapeum, a massive underground complex where the Apis bulls were buried. These bulls were considered divine embodiments of the god Tuatha. Each bull had its own massive stone sarcophagus weighing several tons. The corridors of the Serapeum stretch for hundreds of meters and reflect the high status of the Apis cult. The discovery of inscriptions, stelae, and votive objects in this complex provides insight into the religious ceremonies carried out there. Recent excavations have expanded the understanding of Saqqara's underground network. Archaeologists uncovered new corridors connected to catacombs dedicated to the god Thoth, represented by ibises and baboons. Thousands of ibis mummies were placed in jars and lined up along tunnel walls. Some jars still contain dried remains with feathers and bones intact. Baboons, sacred animals associated with wisdom and the moon, were buried in separate chambers. Tools used for preparing mummies, such as resins, linen strips, and pottery jars, were found in workrooms near the entrances. These discoveries show that mummification was conducted on-site, suggesting a highly organized system involving priests, embalmers, and workers. The presence of animal pens nearby indicates that many animals were raised specifically for ritual use. This large-scale operation formed an important part of the religious and economic life of the region. The architecture of the catacombs shows careful planning. Tunnels were carved with straight walls and vaulted ceilings. Shafts provided ventilation and access to deeper levels. Some corridors contain inscriptions marking the names of donors or priests responsible for particular sections. These inscriptions help establish a timeline for the use of the catacombs, showing continuous activity for several centuries. Artifacts found within the tunnels reveal details about worship practices. Bronze statues of deities were placed as offerings. Wooden coffins shaped like animals contained carefully wrapped remains. Lamps made from clay or bronze were used to light ceremonies deep underground. Many items show signs of handling and wear, reflecting repeated visits by worshippers. The discovery of large caches of statues has been one of the most significant findings. Over 100 statues of various deities were recovered in 2019 alone, including depictions of Peu, Sekhmet, Hathor, and Nefertim. These statues were placed in sealed shafts alongside mummified animals and containers of oils. Their arrangement suggests they were part of a ritual deposit marking the end of a ceremonial period. Saqqara's underground necropolis also contains burial spaces for humans. Some priests associated with the animal cults were buried in chambers connected to the catacombs. Their coffins, amulets, and funerary masks show high status. The presence of both human and animal burials indicates a complex relationship between religious professionals and the sacred creatures they served. Environmental studies within the tunnels reveal that airflow and humidity were controlled through architectural design. Narrow passages allowed cool air to circulate, preserving mummies over millennia. Soot marks on ceilings indicate that torches were used regularly, while pottery fragments show that offerings and meals were part of ritual activities. The combination of environmental and archaeological data helps reconstruct the movement patterns of worshippers and priests. The layout of the catacombs reflects different levels of access. Some areas were reserved for priests, while others were open to the public. Pilgrims traveled to Saqqara to seek healing, protection, or favor from the gods. They purchased votive mummies or statues, which were then placed in the catacombs by temple staff. This system created a large-scale religious industry that supported temple operations and state economy. The variety of mummification styles found in the catacombs demonstrates different levels of care and cost. Some animals were elaborately prepared with fine linen and resin, while others were wrapped quickly for use as simple votive offerings. This diversity reflects the economic range of worshippers. Wealthy donors could pay for elaborate offerings, while common visitors offered simpler forms of devotion. One of the most interesting discoveries is the presence of large communal chambers where animals were arranged in organized patterns. Rows of jars, bundles, and coffins line the walls, almost like shelves in an underground archive. These chambers served as long-term repositories for offerings made over centuries. Their scale reveals the popularity of animal cults during the late period and Ptolemaic era. The rediscovery of new tunnels at Saqqara continues to reshape the understanding of ancient Egyptian religion. While the famous tombs and pyramids represent elite funerary practices, the catacombs reveal a different side of religious life, one centered on public devotion, daily rituals, and widespread participation. The presence of thousands of mummified animals shows how ordinary people connected with gods through offerings that linked the natural and divine worlds. Excavations also highlight the engineering skill involved in constructing the underground necropolis. Workers carved tunnels through limestone, installed support beams, and maintained ventilation systems. The precision of the work suggests knowledge of structural stability and long-term preservation. These catacombs were built to last, serving as permanent homes for sacred animals and offerings. As research continues, archaeologists use digital mapping and 3D scanning to document the tunnels. These technologies help visualize the original layout and identify areas where new chambers may be hidden. Each excavation season adds new artifacts, inscriptions, and mummies to the growing picture of Saqqara's religious landscape. The lost necropolis of Saqqara's catacombs represents one of the most extensive ritual burial systems in Egypt. Its underground world reveals a complex network of worship, economy, and community life. Through thousands of offerings placed over centuries, the catacombs preserve the devotion of countless individuals who sought connection with the gods. Their rediscovery brings to light a vibrant and long-lasting tradition that shaped the spiritual identity of ancient Egypt. The Bronze Age star-shaped Temple of Kazakhstan. Across the wide Kazakh steppe, where grasslands stretch to the horizon and the landscape appears almost untouched, archaeologists recently uncovered a structure unlike anything previously found in Central Asia. Hidden beneath soil and wind-blown sand, the foundations of a star-shaped ritual complex emerged during surveys of Bronze Age settlements. The shape, a geometric star with multiple radiating arms, revealed a level of architectural planning and symbolic design not often associated with early steppe cultures. Its discovery provides new insight into the ceremonial life of communities who lived here nearly 4,000 years ago. The complex lies in a region dotted with burial mounds, stone circles, and early settlements linked to the Andronovo and related cultural groups. These were mobile herders who moved across the steppe with livestock, yet their archaeological record shows surprising sophistication. The star-shaped temple adds to this picture. Built with stone foundations arranged in precise angles, the structure covers a large area and stands out sharply from the surrounding features. Its shape suggests it was meant to be seen from a distance or observed from above, a unique trait among known Bronze Age monuments. Excavations revealed that the temple consisted of an outer star-shaped perimeter formed by thick stone walls. Each arm of the star created a separate compartment or courtyard, while the center held a raised circular platform. This central area likely served as a focal point for ritual activities. Burnt offerings, ash deposits, and fragments of decorated pottery were found on the platform, indicating repeated ceremonial use. The structure's symmetry and alignment suggest that it held symbolic meaning for the community that built it. Archaeologists studying the layout noted that the arms of the star are oriented toward specific points on the horizon. Some align with sunrise or sunset on solstice days, while others mark intermediate directions. This pattern implies knowledge of celestial cycles and suggests the temple may have functioned as an astronomical marker. The open steppe provided a clear horizon for observing the sky, making it ideal for tracking seasonal change. The temple's alignment could have helped determine ritual calendars related to herding or agricultural cycles. The materials used in construction provide clues about community effort. Large stones were transported from nearby riverbeds and assembled into patterned walls. The amount of labor required suggests coordination among multiple families or clans. Construction likely took place over an extended period, with workers shaping stones, digging foundations, and arranging the star's geometry. Such effort indicates that the structure held significant importance within the cultural landscape. Artifacts found within the star-shaped temple show a mixture of everyday items and ceremonial goods. Pottery fragments include vessels with incised decorations typical of Bronze Age steppe cultures. Some pots were made specifically for burning incense or holding offerings, evidenced by residue and burn marks. Bronze pins, tools, and small ornaments were scattered across several compartments. These items may have been left during rituals or placed intentionally as offerings. Animal bones found at the site reveal that feasting formed part of the ritual activity. Burned bones of sheep, goat, and cattle were concentrated in specific areas near the central platform. Their arrangement suggests communal gatherings where participants shared food or performed sacrifices. The presence of ash layers and fire pits reinforces the idea of recurring ceremonies tied to social or seasonal events. Excavators also identified traces of pigments on some stones. Red and yellow mineral residues suggest that parts of the structure were once painted. The use of color in ritual spaces is common across ancient cultures and may have symbolized life, protection, or spiritual power. Painted stones would have increased the visual impact of the temple, making the star shape even more striking. Environmental studies help reconstruct the landscape during the temple's use. Thousands of years ago, the region experienced slightly wetter conditions, supporting lush grasslands and larger herds of animals. Seasonal movements of people and livestock shaped life on the steppe. The star-shaped temple may have served as a ritual center associated with these seasonal cycles. Its location near ancient migration routes suggests it was a gathering spot where groups met for ceremonies or trade. One of the most intriguing questions is the purpose behind the star shape. While star motifs appear in rock carvings and pottery across Central Asia, this is the first known case of a star-shaped structure built on such a large scale. The shape may represent celestial symbolism, linking the people to the sky and cosmic order. Stars played an important role in navigation and timekeeping for nomadic cultures. The temple could have embodied these beliefs in its architecture, merging cosmology with earthly ritual. Excavations around the outskirts of the temple uncovered small hearths and temporary shelters. These structures suggest that people camped near the site during ceremonies. Stone tools, pottery fragments, and food remains indicate short-term habitation. Such gatherings likely involved multiple clans or extended families, reinforcing social bonds and cultural identity. The temple may have served as a neutral ground where groups came together for important events. The discovery also offers clues about leadership within Bronze Age steppe societies. Building and maintaining a structure of this scale required organization and shared purpose. It suggests the presence of ritual specialists or leaders who guided the community's ceremonial life. These individuals may have overseen rituals, maintained the calendar, and ensured the temple remained a sacred location. As excavations continued, archaeologists identified buried pathways leading toward the star complex. These paths appear worn and compacted, indicating regular foot traffic. Their alignment with the star's arms suggests that participants approached the temple from specific directions during ceremonies. The pathways help reconstruct movement patterns and ceremonial processions associated with the site. Radiocarbon dating places the temple's primary use between 1500 and 1200 BCE, a period when steppe cultures were undergoing change. Metalworking expanded, long-distance trade networks grew, and communities adopted new technologies. The temple reflects this era of cultural development. Its design shows influences from both local traditions and wider regional interactions. Chemical analysis of soil samples from the central platform reveals traces of aromatic resins, plant oils, and burned seeds. These substances may have been used in rituals involving incense, purification, or symbolic offerings. Their presence indicates that the ceremonies performed here involved sensory elements such as smell and fire. These findings help bring the rituals to life, showing how the space may have been experienced by those who gathered. The temple's star shape also raises questions about symbolic meaning. Some researchers propose that it reflects cosmological models linking earth and sky. Others suggest it may represent unity among clans or directions of the steppe. The exact meaning remains uncertain, but the complexity of the design shows that the builders held sophisticated conceptual ideas. Modern imaging techniques allow researchers to create digital reconstructions of the temple. These models show how the structure appeared when intact, with raised walls, painted stones, and a prominent central platform. The reconstructions help visualize ceremonies and place the site within the broader Bronze Age landscape. The star-shaped temple stands as a reminder that steppe cultures were not simply nomadic herders, but people with rich spiritual traditions and architectural knowledge. The structure reveals a society capable of coordinated construction, symbolic design, and long-term planning. It challenges earlier assumptions that monumental architecture was limited to settled agricultural civilizations. The discovery of the Bronze Age star-shaped temple of Kazakhstan adds an important chapter to the archaeology of Central Asia. It highlights the creativity and cultural depth of the communities who lived on the steppe and shows how their beliefs shaped the environment around them. As excavations and research continue, the temple remains one of the most intriguing and visually striking monuments of the ancient steppe world. The Bronze Age petroglyph canyon of Tamgal. In the foothills of southeastern Kazakhstan lies a narrow canyon where stone cliffs hold one of the richest collections of ancient rock art in Central Asia. Known as Tamgali, this site contains more than 5,000 petroglyphs carved over several millennia. Among them are images of sun-headed deities, ritual scenes, animals, chariots, warriors, and symbols linked to Bronze Age communities that lived in the region. The canyon served not only as a natural shelter but as a sacred landscape where generations carved their beliefs, fears, and identity into the rock. The canyon's petroglyphs are spread across multiple terraces and rock faces. The oldest and most significant carvings date to the Middle and Late Bronze Age, around 1500 to 1000 BCE. These early carvings stand out due to their size, depth, and stylistic detail. Many feature anthropomorphic figures with large circular halos or sun discs around their heads. These sun-headed gods are unique to the Tamgali region and appear repeatedly in ritual scenes. Their presence suggests a cosmology that centered on solar power, divine protection, and possibly ancestral spirits represented through light. The rock art is arranged in clusters. Each cluster appears to represent a ceremonial stage or gathering point. The largest and most important clusters contain images of deities in central positions, surrounded by worshippers or animals. Some carvings show figures raising their arms in gestures of reverence. Others depict processions or dance-like movements. The arrangement suggests that the canyon served as a long-term ceremonial site where rituals were performed at designated points along the rock faces. The sun-headed deities are among the most striking figures. They often appear as tall humanoid shapes with radiating halos. Their bodies are stylized with elongated limbs and minimal detail. The halo is usually drawn as a large circle with rays or additional lines. These figures may represent gods, ancestors, or cosmic beings. Their repetition across the canyon suggests a central role in Bronze Age belief systems. Compared to other rock art traditions across the Eurasian steppe, Tamgali's solar figures are distinct, indicating that the site held unique spiritual importance for the communities that carved them. Surrounding the deities are numerous carvings of animals. These include bulls, horses, camels, goats, and deer. Many animals appear in dynamic poses, running, fighting, or interacting with human figures. Horses and bulls are especially prominent in ritual scenes. Their significance likely relates to economic and symbolic roles within Bronze Age steppe culture. Bulls appear in scenes of sacrifice or power, while horses may represent prestige or mobility. The natural abundance of wildlife in the region made these animals central to daily life, but their placement in ritual clusters suggests symbolic meaning beyond simple representation. Certain carvings depict scenes of mating animals, hunting parties, or herding. These images may reflect seasonal cycles, fertility, or communal activities. The Bronze Age communities of the region lived primarily as herders and early farmers, and seasonal migrations shaped their lifestyles. The canyon may have served as a fixed ceremonial point within a shifting landscape. Returning to the same place over generations allowed symbolic continuity, even as groups moved across the steppe. One of the most intriguing aspects of Tamgali is the presence of ritual and sacrificial scenes. Figures appear holding objects, possibly ritual tools or offerings. Some scenes show human-animal interaction with symbolic postures. The alignment of figures suggests choreographed activity, possibly linked to ceremonies conducted in the canyon. Archaeologists found evidence of hearths, temporary shelters, and small stone structures near the petroglyph clusters, indicating that gatherings took place here. The canyon's natural acoustics and protective walls made it an ideal setting for rituals involving sound, movement, and fire. The surrounding landscape provides further clues. The canyon opens onto a broad valley, used historically for herding. The rock faces are positioned to catch sunlight in dramatic ways during mornings and evenings. Sunlight illuminates specific carvings at certain times of the year, particularly around solstices. This alignment supports the idea that the site was designed with astronomical awareness. The sun-headed deities may symbolize solar cycles that were essential for managing herding, planting, and seasonal migrations. Archaeological layers near the main clusters contain pottery fragments, stone tools, and hearth remains. These materials indicate that groups camped in the canyon during rituals or gatherings. Some hearths contain burnt animal bones suggesting feasting or ritual sacrifice. The repeated presence of burned materials in specific locations shows continuity of ceremonies over centuries. These gatherings likely involved multiple families or clans coming together for important events tied to seasonal transitions, alliances, or social celebrations. The petroglyphs were carved using stone tools that chipped away the rock's dark surface to reveal lighter layers underneath. This technique created strong contrast, allowing figures to remain visible even after thousands of years. The depth and clarity of Bronze Age carvings suggest skilled artisans who understood the qualities of the stone. Many carvings overlap, showing that the canyon remained in use long after its earliest carvings were made. Later periods added new figures. Scythian, Turkic, and even medieval groups contributed carvings, but the earliest Bronze Age scenes remain the most complex and symbolically dense. One notable scene shows three sun-headed figures standing together, surrounded by smaller human shapes. Their arrangement suggests a pantheon or group of divine beings. Another carving shows a large figure with a halo holding a staff-like object flanked by animals. Such images may represent rituals of power, authority, or leadership. The canyon may have served as a place where political and spiritual authority intersected, and where leaders performed ceremonies to legitimize their roles. The petroglyphs also reveal clues about technological development. Carvings of chariots drawn by horses appear in later Bronze Age layers. These chariots reflect early adoption of wheeled transport and warfare technologies in the region. Their presence shows that the people who carved these walls were connected to broader cultural developments across the Eurasian steppe. As excavation and documentation continue, researchers use digital imaging and 3D scanning to record the petroglyphs. These technologies help reveal faded carvings, overlapping layers, and chronological sequences. By analyzing the depth, style, and patination of the carvings, archaeologists can separate Bronze Age figures from later additions. This process helps reconstruct the evolution of beliefs and artistic traditions across millennia. The canyon's role as a sacred landscape lasted far beyond the Bronze Age. Later communities reused the site but retained elements of its symbolic importance. Burial mounds, small shrines, and ritual stones were added in different periods. This continuity suggests that the canyon's spiritual significance was deeply rooted in its geography, acoustics, and visual presence. The Bronze Age petroglyphs of Tamgali offer one of the most detailed windows into the spiritual world of ancient steppe societies. The sun-headed gods, ritual scenes, and animal representations form a complex symbolic system that reflects cosmology, community identity, and daily life. The canyon served as a gathering place for ceremonies, a visual record of belief, and a connection between people and the natural world. Its carvings, preserved for thousands of years, continue to reveal the depth and creativity of the cultures that once lived across the vast Kazakh steppe. The terraced lost city of Ciudad Perdida. Deep within the mountains of Colombia's Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta lies a city hidden for centuries beneath dense rainforest. Known today as Ciudad Perdida, the Lost City. This ancient settlement consists of vast stone terraces, stairways, and platforms carved into steep hillsides. Archaeological evidence shows that it was built around 800 CE, making it at least 6 centuries older than Machu Picchu. The city's rediscovery revealed the scale and sophistication of the Tairona civilization, an indigenous culture that flourished long before European arrival. The city is perched high on ridges overlooking deep valleys and river systems. Its builders transformed the rugged terrain into a network of terraces connected by stone paths and staircases. These terraces formed living platforms, ceremonial plazas, and agricultural areas. The design reflects a deep understanding of mountain engineering. Rather than clearing flat land, the Tairona reshaped the mountains themselves, stabilizing slopes with retaining walls and using natural contours to manage water flow. One of the most striking features of Ciudad Perdida is its circular stone platforms. More than 200 platforms exist across the site, arranged at different elevations. The largest form broad plazas where communal gatherings, ceremonies, or markets may have taken place. Smaller platforms supported houses made from wood and thatch. The circular form is characteristic of Tairona architecture, symbolizing harmony, balance, and the connection between community and landscape. The platforms also helped protect structures from erosion and tropical rainfall. A complex network of stone stairways links the different areas of the city. Some stairways climb steep slopes for hundreds of steps, carved directly into bedrock or assembled from fitted stones. These paths follow natural ridges and drainages, reflecting careful planning. The stairways allowed movement across the settlement and connected Ciudad Perdida to surrounding villages. Archaeologists traced ancient routes linking the city to coastal areas, showing that it was part of a broader network of trade and communication. The Tairona people who built Ciudad Perdida developed a thriving culture in the mountains. They farmed crops such as maize, cassava, and fruits, using terraced fields to prevent soil loss. They were skilled gold workers, producing intricate jewelry and ritual objects using advanced metalworking techniques. Many gold pieces contain symbolic designs representing animals, spirits, and natural forces. These artifacts show that Ciudad Perdida was not an isolated site, but a center of cultural and spiritual life. Archaeological excavations uncovered evidence of long-term occupation. Layers of domestic debris, pottery, tools, and food remains reveal centuries of continuous use. House sites show repeated rebuilding, with newer floors laid over older ones. Fire pits, grinding stones, and ceramic vessels provide insight into household activities. The presence of spindle whorls indicates textile production, while stone tools suggest woodworking and agricultural preparation. The city's location provided strategic advantages. Surrounded by dense forest and steep terrain, it was naturally protected. The high elevation reduced disease pressure from mosquitoes and allowed access to clean mountain water. Springs and channels run through the site, feeding stone-lined drains that direct water across terraces. This water management system prevented flooding during heavy rains and ensured constant supply for domestic and ceremonial use. Ciudad Perdida likely served as a political and spiritual center for the Tairona. Large open plazas and elevated platforms suggest spaces for rituals or gatherings involving leaders, priests, or community members. Some terraces appear to have served as sacred areas used for ceremonies connecting people with ancestral spirits or natural forces. The Tairona cosmology viewed mountains, rivers, and forests as living beings, and the city's design reflects this worldview. Architecture blended with nature, creating a landscape where daily life and spiritual practice were intertwined. Burials found near the city offer important clues about social structure. Some graves contain fine gold ornaments, beads, and high-quality ceramics, indicating individuals of elevated status. Others contain simpler offerings. The variation suggests a society with distinct roles: leaders, artisans, farmers, and spiritual specialists. Bodies were often placed in stone-lined tombs, with offerings intended to accompany the deceased into the spiritual world. During the Spanish colonial period, the Tairona were pushed from many of their settlements, and Ciudad Perdida gradually became overtaken by forest. Oral traditions of indigenous groups preserved the memory of the sacred site, but its precise location remained hidden from outsiders. In the 1970s, looters stumbled upon the city and removed valuable artifacts. Their activities eventually led archaeologists to the site, and official excavations began. The Colombian government and indigenous communities now work together to protect and manage Ciudad Perdida. Modern archaeology emphasizes collaboration with the indigenous Kogi, Arhuaco, Wiwa, and Cancuamo peoples, descendants of the Tairona. These communities regard Ciudad Perdida as a sacred landscape, known to them as Teyuna. Their ceremonial practices continue in the region, and they play a central role in guiding research and visitation. Their perspective helps interpret the site's symbolic meanings, emphasizing continuity between past and present. Excavations revealed extensive stone engineering throughout the city. Massive retaining walls support terraces and prevent landslides. Carefully cut stones interlock with minimal gaps, reflecting skill in masonry. Drainage channels run beneath certain platforms, carrying water away from living areas. These features show understanding of geology, hydrology, and structural stability. The construction methods allowed the city to endure centuries of rainfall and erosion. Archaeologists mapped the layout of Ciudad Perdida to understand its social organization. The city spreads across several hillsides connected by paths. Some areas contain clusters of platforms that may have housed extended families. Others hold larger ceremonial spaces. The organization suggests that different groups lived in separate sectors but gathered in central plazas for collective events. The city's design reflects a balance between private life and communal identity. The surrounding region contains smaller settlements that fed into Ciudad Perdida's authority. Terraces outside the city show evidence of farming activities. Stone paths lead to river valleys where trade occurred. Goods such as salt, shells, tools, and gold flowed through these routes. The city likely functioned as a hub where exchange, ritual, and decision-making converged. Artifacts found at the site help reconstruct daily activities. Pottery styles vary between utilitarian cooking vessels and finely decorated ceremonial pieces. Stone tools include axes, knives, and mortars. Gold artifacts include nose ornaments, pendants, and small figurines. Many items show symbolic motifs such as birds, serpents, and geometric patterns linked to Tairona beliefs. Ciudad Perdida's rediscovery reshaped the understanding of ancient Andean and South American civilizations. While Machu Picchu is more widely known, Tairona engineering and urban planning in Colombia reveal a parallel tradition of mountain construction. The terraces, platforms, and stairways demonstrate a complex society with deep spiritual and environmental knowledge. The city's age and scale highlight its importance as one of the earliest large mountain settlements in the region. Today, accessing Ciudad Perdida requires a multi-day trek through dense rainforest. Visitors cross rivers, climb steep trails, and pass indigenous settlements along the way. The final ascent involves hundreds of stone steps leading to the first terraces. This journey echoes the ancient routes that connected the city to the rest of the region. The physical approach reinforces the sense of entering a place shaped not only by human hands but also by the spirit of the mountains and forest. The terraced lost city of Ciudad Perdida remains one of the most impressive examples of pre-Columbian engineering in South America. Its terraces, stairways, and platforms reveal a society that blended environmental mastery with spiritual tradition. The city stands as a reminder of the resilience and creativity of the Tairona people, whose legacy continues through the indigenous communities that protect and honor this enduring sacred landscape. The Temple of Amada. In the far reaches of ancient Nubia, along a quiet stretch of the Nile where the desert rises sharply from the riverbanks, stands one of the oldest and best preserved temples of the New Kingdom, the Temple of Amada. Built more than 3,500 years ago, this small but richly decorated sanctuary survived the passage of time, largely untouched, protected by its remote location and desert conditions. Its walls still carry vivid colors, delicate inscriptions, and scenes that reveal not only religious devotion but also the shifting politics of Egypt's presence in Nubia. The temple was founded during the reign of Thutmose III and expanded by his successor, Amenhotep II. It was dedicated to Amun-Ra and Ra-Horakhti, major deities of the Egyptian pantheon. Although modest in size, Amada served as a spiritual and administrative center for Egyptian officials stationed in Nubia during a period when the empire extended deep into the south. The temple symbolized Egyptian authority, celebrated royal victories, and reinforced cultural ties between Egypt and the Nubian population. The structure consists of a small entrance hall, a hypostyle room with 2 pillars, and a sanctuary containing niches and carved reliefs. What makes the temple exceptional is the preservation of its painted decoration. Within the sanctuary, scenes remain bright with reds, yellows, blues, and greens, showing rituals performed by pharaohs before the gods. The dry desert environment and the temple's later relocation kept these paintings remarkably intact. Today they provide one of the clearest windows into New Kingdom artistic style outside the larger temples of Thebes. The outer walls carry inscriptions describing military campaigns and political events. One famous text commemorates the victories of Amenhotep II, recording his interactions with foreign rulers and the capture of prisoners of war. Another inscription from a later period was added by Seti I, reflecting how the temple continued to serve as a site of royal communication long after its construction. These historical texts help reconstruct the relationship between Egypt and its southern territories, showing diplomacy, conflict, and administrative control. Inside the temple, the reliefs depict pharaohs offering incense, water, and food to Amun-Ra, Mut, and other deities. Figures are carved with precision, showing traditional poses and detailed clothing. In many scenes, kings stand before the gods, receiving symbols of power. The themes reinforce the idea that the temple functioned as a place where divine approval was acknowledged and royal legitimacy was renewed. The images also highlight the importance of religious ceremonies in maintaining political authority in distant provinces. The Temple of Amada's remote location contributed to its survival. After Egypt's control over Nubia diminished during the late period, many temples in the region were abandoned or repurposed. Amada, situated far from major settlements, avoided large-scale damage. Sand accumulation buried parts of the structure, protecting the reliefs from erosion. Travelers occasionally recorded the temple's presence, but it remained largely unknown to the outside world until modern archaeology began documenting Nubian sites. In the 1960s, construction of the Aswan High Dam threatened to submerge many ancient monuments under the rising waters of Lake Nasser. To save the Temple of Amada, engineers and archaeologists undertook a massive relocation effort. Unlike larger temples that were dismantled and rebuilt block by block, Amada was moved in one piece. The structure was mounted on a steel platform and transported uphill over several kilometers to higher ground. This careful process preserved the interior decoration and ensured the temple remained structurally intact. The relocation revealed details about the building's construction. Blocks of sandstone were cut precisely and fitted without large gaps. Pigments used for painting included mineral-based colors that adhered well to the carved surfaces. Traces of earlier repair work from ancient times show that the temple was maintained throughout its active use. The combination of careful construction and desert preservation allowed its artwork to survive in impressive condition. Archaeological study of the temple's surrounding area uncovered traces of ancient habitation, including storage rooms, administrative buildings, and small chapels. These finds suggest that the temple formed part of a larger complex serving both religious and political functions. Egyptian officials stationed in Nubia oversaw trade, mining operations, and local governance. The temple acted as a focal point for these activities, reinforcing Egypt's presence and cultural influence. One of the most valuable aspects of the temple is its preserved color. On many walls, the hues remain vibrant even after thousands of years. Scenes show Amun-Ra with blue and yellow tones, while royal clothing retains reds and whites that contrast sharply with the sandstone background. These preserved pigments provide rare evidence of how Egyptian temples once appeared. Many surviving temples in other regions lost their colors due to exposure, but at Amada, the dry climate allowed the original palette to endure. Detailed study of the reliefs reveals differences between artistic periods. Scenes from the early New Kingdom show sharp outlines and strong contrasts, while later editions exhibit smoother lines and slightly different proportions. These variations help date phases of renovation and expansion. Some reliefs show erased or reworked cartouches, reflecting political changes such as the corrections made during the reign of Seti I. The temple's inscriptions also offer insight into diplomatic relationships. Texts refer to gifts sent by foreign rulers, including tribute from Nubia and nearby regions. These offerings included gold, cattle, and exotic goods. The temple served not only as a religious site, but also as a record-keeping center, documenting political events important to Egypt's southern administration. Environmental studies around the temple reveal how the landscape changed over time. Ancient channels and agricultural features show that the area once supported farms and small settlements. Seasonal flooding provided water for fields, while nearby cliffs offered natural protection. As political control shifted, these settlements declined, and the desert slowly reclaimed the region. The temple became isolated, preserved by its solitude. Today, the Temple of Amata stands in a protected area overlooking the waters of Lake Nasser. Visitors can see the preserved reliefs up close, gaining insight into the artistry of the New Kingdom. The sanctuary remains the most impressive part of the complex, with walls covered in painted scenes that appear much as they did when carved. The combination of color, detail, and historical inscriptions makes Amata one of the most important Nubian temples for understanding ancient Egyptian expansion. The temple's survival tells a broader story about resilience. Built more than 3 millennia ago, it endured political shifts, environmental changes, abandonment, and the threat of flooding. Its relocation required international cooperation and engineering innovation, symbolizing the global effort to preserve ancient heritage. The structure now stands as a testament to both ancient craftsmanship and modern preservation. The Temple of Amata continues to reveal information through ongoing research. New imaging techniques help analyze pigments, inscriptions, and carving methods. Conservation work ensures that the colors remain stable despite exposure to visitors and changing humidity. Each study adds to the understanding of the temple's role in ancient Nubia and its significance in Egyptian history. Today, the Temple of Amata represents a rare combination of age, artistic preservation, and historical depth. Its walls offer a vivid glimpse into religious life during the height of the New Kingdom and document Egypt's far-reaching influence in Nubia. Through its survival and restoration, the temple stands as one of the most important monuments along the Nile, preserving the colors, stories, and rituals of a civilization that shaped the ancient world. The Lothal Dockyard of the Indus Valley. On the western coast of India, surrounded by salt flats and quiet fields, lies one of the most remarkable engineering achievements of the ancient world, the Dockyard of Lothal. Built more than 4,000 years ago by the Indus Valley civilization, this basin is considered one of the earliest known dockyards on Earth. Its discovery revealed that the people of Lothal were not only skilled craftsmen and merchants but also pioneers in maritime architecture and long-distance trade. Lothal sits near the Gulf of Combat, an area where tidal waters rise and fall dramatically. Thousands of years ago, rivers flowed more strongly here, connecting Lothal to the Arabian Sea. The Indus Valley engineers took advantage of these waterways by constructing a large basin capable of holding ships safely during tidal cycles. The dockyard is rectangular in shape, measuring roughly 218 meters by 37 meters, with walls made from carefully laid burnt bricks. These bricks, standardized in size, demonstrate the Indus Valley's consistent building system. The dockyard was connected to the river through a spill channel that managed water flow. This channel allowed water to enter the basin during high tide and drain during low tide. Such hydraulic engineering is remarkable considering its age. The dockyard's design protected ships from strong currents and ensured that vessels could be loaded, repaired, or anchored without the risk of damage. The presence of a warehouse nearby, with stone foundations and evenly spaced rooms, suggests that goods were stored immediately after arrival. Archaeologists uncovered evidence that Lothal was a major trading hub. Items found at the site include beads, shells, pottery, ivory, and copper tools. Many of these goods came from distant regions, such as Mesopotamia, Oman, and the interior of the Indian subcontinent. Indus seals discovered at Mesopotamian sites mention trading partners and merchants likely connected to Lothal. These seals feature animals, symbols, and script that served as identification markers in commercial transactions. The bead industry at Lothal was especially famous. Craftsmen shaped semi-precious stones like carnelian, agate, and lapis lazuli into beads using fine drills and polishing tools. Waste flakes, broken beads, and kiln remains found across the site reveal a highly organized production center. The precision of the beads indicates advanced craftsmanship. Many beads from Lothal have been found in ancient sites outside India, showing the reach of their trade networks. Excavations revealed a carefully planned city layout. Streets run in a grid pattern, lined with houses made from baked bricks. Drains run along the edges of streets, leading wastewater into soak pits. This drainage system reflects the Indus Valley's emphasis on cleanliness and public health. Town planning at Lothal shows consistency with other Indus cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, though adapted to local environmental needs. Near the dockyard stands a large platform identified as a warehouse. The platform's surface contains a grid of brick-lined cubicles that likely stored trade goods. A large number of seal impressions were found near the structure, supporting its role in commercial activity. Goods arriving from ships would have been catalogued, sealed, and stored here before distribution to other regions. One of the most important structures at Lothal is the Acropolis, a raised platform containing administrative and ritual buildings. Although smaller than Acropolis structures in other Indus cities, it suggests a social hierarchy and governance system. Officials likely oversaw trade, managed artisans, and maintained the dockyard's operations. The Acropolis also housed elite residences that show evidence of specialized construction techniques. Evidence of metalworking, shellcraft, and pottery production shows that Lothal was a multi-industry center. Workshops produced tools, ornaments, and containers for local use and trade. Kilns, furnaces, and raw material deposits allow archaeologists to reconstruct the economic structure of the city. The wide range of industries reflects a thriving community supported by trade and craftsmanship. Environmental studies reveal that Lothal's prosperity depended heavily on water management. Geological analysis shows that rivers near the city shifted over time. As natural channels changed, silt built up and water flow decreased. These environmental changes eventually made it difficult for the dockyard to function. The decline of the Indus Valley civilization coincided with these shifts, suggesting that Lothal's economic base weakened when maritime routes became unreliable. Despite environmental challenges, the engineering of the dockyard remains impressive. Its brick-lined walls show no signs of hasty construction. The spill channel was carefully angled to control water flow. The basin's depth, originally several meters deeper than it is today, was designed to accommodate boats during different tidal stages. Archaeologists found evidence of wooden structures and mooring posts along the basin's edge, indicating that ships were secured using ropes tied to beams. The presence of a freshwater well near the dockyard suggests that sailors and merchants had reliable access to drinking water. Wells across the city were lined with bricks arranged in a spiraling pattern, reinforcing their strength. These engineering choices reflect advanced knowledge of construction and hydraulics. Pieces of pottery found in domestic areas show that Lothal residents used standardized shapes for cooking, storage, and trade. Some vessels contain traces of grains, fish, or oil, offering insight into diet and daily life. The variety of animal bones suggests that people consumed fish, cattle, goats, and shellfish. The proximity to the coast provided a mixed economy of farming, fishing, and trade. Religious life at Lothal is harder to reconstruct, but small altars and fire pits found in some houses suggest ritual activities. Figurines made from terracotta depict animals and human shapes, possibly used in ceremonies or storytelling. A fire altar discovered near the Acropolis resembles structures found in other Indus sites linked to ritual practices. Lothal's decline occurred gradually. As river channels shifted and silt filled the dockyard, maritime activity decreased. Floods damaged workshops and homes, forcing residents to rebuild multiple times. Eventually, trade routes changed, and the city lost its central economic role. By the end of the 2nd millennium BCE, Lothal was largely abandoned, leaving behind the ruins that tell its story today. Modern excavations and conservation efforts aim to protect the dockyard and associated structures from erosion. Archaeologists continue to study soil layers, artifacts, and architectural features to reconstruct the city's history. Digital models help visualize how the dockyard operated and how ships entered and exited during high tide. The Lothal dockyard stands as a testament to the ingenuity of the Indus Valley civilization. It shows that ancient engineers understood tides, water control, and large-scale construction. It reflects a society engaged in long-distance trade, skilled craftsmanship, and organized administration. Through its preserved ruins, Lothal reveals the complexity and sophistication of one of the world's earliest urban cultures. Today, the site remains one of India's most important archaeological landmarks. The dockyard's walls, though weathered, still outline the basin where ships once anchored. The city's grid, the warehouse blocks, and the workshops offer a window into life 4,000 years ago. The achievements of Lothal's builders continue to inspire studies of ancient maritime history and highlight the remarkable capabilities of the Indus Valley people. The ancient city of Ani. On a windswept plateau in eastern Turkey, near the border with Armenia, stands the abandoned medieval city of Ani. Once known as the City of 1001 Churches, Ani was a thriving urban center nearly 1,000 years ago. Today, its stone buildings rise unexpectedly from rolling grasslands, preserved by isolation and silence. The city's empty streets, collapsed roofs, and standing walls give the impression of a place frozen in time, an entire medieval capital left open to the sky. Ani first emerged as a fortified settlement in late antiquity, but it rose to prominence during the 10th and 11th centuries when it became the capital of the Bagratid Armenian kingdom. Its location along major trade routes connecting Central Asia, the Caucasus, and the Middle East helped it develop into a wealthy commercial center. Written sources describe Ani as a bustling metropolis filled with merchants, craftsmen, and travelers from distant regions. The city's architecture reflects this prosperity. The ruins include churches, mosques, palaces, merchant homes, and defensive structures spread across a high plateau bordered by deep river gorges. The most prominent landmark is the Cathedral of Ani, designed by the architect Tredat. Its pointed arches and tall interior space represent advanced engineering for its time. Although the roof collapsed long ago, the walls still stand tall, showing the scale and ambition of medieval Armenian architecture. Nearby, the Church of the Redeemer once held a relic believed to be a fragment of the true cross. The building originally had a full circular design, but today only half remains standing. Its preserved portion shows intricate stone carvings, geometric patterns, and decorative arches that reflect the craftsmanship of the period. Across the plateau stands the Church of St. Gregory of Tigran-Hunets, notable for its interior frescoes depicting biblical scenes. These frescoes, though faded, provide rare examples of medieval Armenian painting preserved in situ. One of the city's most striking structures is the Church of St. Gregory of the Abakamrants family. Its conical dome and robust exterior walls represent a classic style of Armenian ecclesiastical architecture. The structure's interior still displays carved capitals and stone benches, offering a glimpse into medieval worship practices. Together, these churches contribute to Ani's reputation as a spiritual and architectural center. Beyond its religious buildings, Ani also contains evidence of commercial life. Excavations uncovered remains of shops, workshops, and storage rooms. Pottery fragments, metal tools, and coins reveal a thriving economy based on trade and craftsmanship. The city's strategic location placed it along the Silk Road, allowing merchants to exchange goods such as textiles, ceramics, metals, and spices. The presence of caravan routes is reflected in wide streets and large open squares designed to accommodate travelers and traders. Fortifications surrounding Ani show how the city protected itself. Massive stone walls with towers and gates encircle the plateau. These walls were expanded by different rulers, each adding new layers of defense. Excavations show that the walls once stood several meters higher and were topped with wooden walkways for guards. Their scale demonstrates the importance of security in a region frequently contested by empires. Despite its prosperity, Ani experienced repeated cycles of conflict. Control of the city passed among Armenian, Byzantine, Seljuk, Georgian, and Mongol rulers. Each period left traces in the architecture: mosques built during Seljuk rule, inscriptions from Georgian governors, and defensive modifications linked to Mongol presence. One of the most notable Islamic structures is the Menusher Mosque, considered the oldest surviving mosque in Anatolia. Its tall minaret and rectangular prayer hall reflect early Seljuk architectural influences. Earthquakes played a major role in the city's decline. A severe earthquake in 1319 damaged many buildings and contributed to depopulation. As trade routes shifted and political control changed, Ani gradually lost its importance. By the 17th century, it was mostly abandoned. Over time, soil, wind, and vegetation filled streets and courtyards, but the dry climate helped preserve the stone structures. The result is a cityscape that still reflects its medieval form. Archaeological surveys reveal that Ani once supported a large population. Residential areas contain clusters of stone houses built along narrow lanes. Some homes include underground storage pits, ovens, and courtyards. Wells and water channels indicate that residents used both groundwater and river sources. The city's urban layout shows hierarchical organization, with religious and administrative buildings located on high terraces, while residential quarters filled the lower slopes. One of the most fascinating features of Ani is its system of underground passages and cave dwellings carved into cliffs along the surrounding gorges. These caves served as storage spaces, shelters, and in some cases, small monasteries. Carved steps, niches, and doorways remain visible today. These underground areas show how the city adapted to its environment and made use of natural formations for practical and religious purposes. The surrounding landscape contributes significantly to Ani's atmosphere. The city sits on a plateau with steep drops along its borders. The Akurian River flows through a deep canyon to the east, forming a natural barrier. The openness of the plateau creates a sense of vastness. This geography protected the city in ancient times and preserves its sense of isolation today. Visitors often describe Ani as a place where the past feels unusually present. Archaeological projects at Ani continue to uncover new details. Excavations have focused on stabilizing buildings, documenting inscriptions, and studying artifacts. Ceramic analysis helps determine trade connections, while architectural studies reveal construction techniques used by different cultural groups. Conservation work is essential because many structures remain fragile. Stabilizing walls, reinforcing foundations, and restoring frescoes require careful planning to preserve authenticity. The city's ruins also reveal cultural interaction. Armenian churches include architectural influences from Byzantine and Persian styles. Seljuk additions show Islamic artistic traditions, such as geometric motifs and stylized calligraphy. These layers reflect Ani's position as a crossroads between civilizations. The city's multicultural past adds depth to its archaeological significance. Today, Ani lies within Turkey but remains close to the Armenian border, making it a place of shared heritage. Both countries recognize the cultural value of the site. International organizations support preservation efforts, emphasizing that Ani represents a historic landscape shaped by multiple cultures and periods. Its monuments offer insight into medieval engineering, artistic expression, and urban design. Walking through Ani, one can trace the outlines of streets, enter roofless churches, and look through windows that once faced busy markets. The absence of modern development allows the city's original layout to remain clear. Although the buildings are in ruins, their walls stand strong enough to convey the complexity of the city's past. The open spaces between structures reflect public squares and gathering areas once filled with daily activity. The ancient city of Ani remains one of the most visually striking archaeological sites in the region. Its churches, fortifications, and urban layout provide a detailed picture of medieval life in the Caucasus region. Its isolation preserved it, and its rediscovery revealed a forgotten capital with deep cultural and architectural importance. Through ongoing research and conservation, Ani continues to share the story of a city that once stood at the center of trade, religion, and political power. The Minoan Palace of Phaistos. On the southern side of Crete, where the Messara plain opens like a wide bowl beneath distant mountains, stands one of the most impressive centers of the Bronze Age Aegean, the Palace of Phaistos. Built and rebuilt over centuries by the Minoan civilization, the palace is known for its grand staircases, open courtyards, storerooms, and complex layout. It is also tied to one of archaeology's most enduring mysteries, the Phaistos disc, a fired clay object stamped with symbols unlike anything else in the ancient world. Together, the palace and its artifacts reveal the sophistication and complexity of Minoan Crete. The palace sits on a low hill overlooking fertile lands that supported agriculture for thousands of years. Its location allowed control over trade routes crossing the Messara plain and access to coastal ports to the south. Excavations show that Phaistos was already an important center in the early Bronze Age, but its first massive palace was built around 1900 BCE. This structure suffered destruction, likely from an earthquake, and a second palace was built on top of the ruins. Today's visible remains combine features from both phases. The central courtyard is the heart of the complex. Measuring roughly 50 by 20 meters, this large open space served as a gathering area for ceremonies, processions, and communal events. The courtyard connects directly to major wings of the palace, including storage areas, workshops, administrative rooms, and living spaces. Excavations uncovered evidence of ritual installations, including altars and stone basins, suggesting that the palace played a major ceremonial role in Minoan society. To the west of the courtyard lies the West Court, a large paved area bordered by long steps. These steps may have served as viewing platforms during public ceremonies. The court also contains stone-lined pits and channels that may have had ritual functions. The arrangement reflects the Minoan emphasis on open-air gatherings and processional movement. Architecture at Phaistos shows an intentional connection between indoor and outdoor spaces, blending administrative, residential, and ceremonial activities into a unified environment. One of the palace's most impressive features is the Grand Staircase, a monumental structure with broad steps leading to upper terraces. The staircase demonstrates refined architectural planning and provides access to important rooms. Its scale indicates that the palace was not only a political and economic center, but also a place of social display. The Minoans emphasized aesthetic design, and the staircase reflects their mastery of space, symmetry, and stone construction. The palace's storage areas reveal economic organization. Long magazines, narrow rooms with thick walls, once housed pithoi, large storage jars used for grain, oil, wine, and other goods. The size and number of these rooms show that Phaistos served as a regional distribution center. Goods from surrounding farms were collected, processed, and redistributed by palace administrators. Seals and ceilings found in these areas show a well-developed system of record-keeping. Clay ceilings stamped with personal or official symbols were used to secure storerooms and shipments. Living quarters and administrative spaces occupy the northern and eastern wings. These areas include small rooms with benches, raised platforms, and storage niches. Some rooms contain plastered floors and wall remains that suggest decorative frescoes once adorned the palace. At Phaistos, as in other Minoan palaces, the combination of utility and artistic expression reflects a society that valued comfort, beauty, and ritual symbolism. The Phaistos disc remains the site's most famous find. Discovered in 1908 in a small underground room, the disc is made of fired clay and measures about 15 centimeters in diameter. Both sides contain spiraling lines of stamped symbols, humans, animals, tools, plants, and abstract shapes. No other object with the same script has ever been found, making the disc unique. It remains undeciphered, and scholars debate whether it represents writing, a ritual hymn, a record, or even a game piece. Regardless of its purpose, the disc highlights the creativity and individuality of Minoan culture. Other artifacts from Phaistos include pottery with intricate designs, seal stones carved with animals and mythological scenes, and tools made from bronze and stone. These objects show that the palace was a center of craftsmanship. Workshops within the complex produce textiles, ceramics, and metal goods. The variety of tools found suggests specialized labor, with artisans working in organized spaces under palace supervision. Environmental studies show that the region surrounding Phaistos was fertile and well-suited for agriculture. The Minoans grew grains, olives, and grapes, supporting large populations. They also engaged in trade across the Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean. Goods such as pottery, metalwork, and textiles from Crete have been found in sites across Greece, Cyprus, and the Levant. The location of Phaistos allowed it to control land-based trade across southern Crete, complementing the maritime activities of nearby ports. Religious life at Phaistos is revealed through small shrines, ritual vessels, and symbolic motifs. Minoan religion emphasized natural forces, goddesses, and sacred animals. Scenes of worship appear in seals and pottery. Excavations also uncovered evidence that special rooms were used for ceremonial dining or libation rituals. The palace's design, with open courtyards and elevated platforms, reflects a culture in which ritual activities were integrated into daily life rather than confined to separate temples. The palace experienced several phases of destruction, likely caused by earthquakes. The region is seismically active, and geological studies show repeated building collapses over centuries. After one of these events around 1450 BCE, the palace was abandoned or greatly reduced in function. This period corresponds to broader disruptions across Crete that affected Minoan society. Mycenaean influence from mainland Greece increased soon after, and many Minoan sites show cultural shifts. At Phaistos, the final occupation layers include pottery styles associated with the Mycenaean period. Despite its decline, the ruins remained visible throughout antiquity. Later settlements existed nearby, but the palace itself was not rebuilt. Its walls, staircases, and courtyards endured beneath layers of soil and vegetation, until modern excavations in the early 20th century uncovered them. Archaeologists carefully documented each section, revealing the complexity of the structure and its significance in Minoan culture. Today, the Palace of Phaistos offers a detailed picture of life in Bronze Age Crete. Walking through the ruins, visitors can follow pathways from storerooms to ceremonial courts, climb the broad staircases, and stand in the central courtyard where Minoans once gathered. The openness of the site allows the surrounding landscape to merge with the archaeology, emphasizing the connection between the palace and the natural world. The palace remains an important source for understanding Minoan architecture, administration, and ritual life. Its design reflects a society that balanced practicality with artistic expression. The storerooms show economic sophistication, the courtyards reveal ceremonial traditions, and the small rooms and workshops indicate specialized crafts. The Phaistos disc adds an element of mystery, reminding researchers that much about Minoan writing and communication remains unknown. The Minoan Palace of Phaistos stands as a testament to the creativity of Bronze Age Crete. Its terraces, storerooms, stairways, and central courtyard reveal a vibrant society with complex traditions and advanced engineering. Through continued study, Phaistos continues to illuminate the cultural world that produced one of the Mediterranean's earliest and most remarkable civilizations.